Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto returned with a new bloodline and Kurenai and Anko by his side? Episode 2. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, Naruto's mysterious new bloodline has begun awakening, and his unexpected return is already changing the balance of power throughout the Shinobi world. Now, let's start. Nothing exciting happened along the way. The two teams saw a few odd arrangements, most likely by Naruto running by. Nothing to be concerned with, yet. A few dead animals, seemed to be vicious looking. Kakashi had the distinct feeling of being watched but couldn't place which direction to look, so he just left it. No confrontation, no retaliation. Kurenai had been thinking over the nature's wrath, and who he is to her. How she had relaxed and let him in after such a short time. No one had been able to do that before, not that easily, or at all. Idly she wondered what would happen when they got back to the village, with Asuma and the Hokage, with her friend Anko, or the rest of the teams. Shino was simply contemplating how Naruto was reacting to him, seemingly a great friend. He soon just turned to his bugs and conversed with low buzzes, which got a few weird looks and one freak look. Sasuke stayed brooding about Naruto. The rest just walked, not really talking and taking in the scenery. It was a nice peaceful morning. While enjoying a comfortable walk, Shino allowed his bugs free roam, and Kiba allowed Akamaru the time to run around before getting into the walls of the village again. After what seemed like an hour with no sign of Naruto, Kurenai started to wonder where he could have gone off to. While he hadn't left his cloak, she could still smell his scent on her clothes, on her skin. The forest started to thin, and on the edge they saw what appeared to be a pure black panther, which seemed to be waiting for them on its haunches. 9 foxes swarm around it, as if living fire. When the two teams came into view, the panther didn't seem the least bit fazed. The foxes, on the other hand, acted lividly, causing the whole party to halt. The glowing eyes of the foxes take to each of them, caution evident within them, the will to fight noticeable. Kurenai was the only one to keep walking. The foxes began to growl softly, until the panther silenced them by picking up a paw and letting it fall, a dust cloud poofing up. Hesitant from the growls, Kurenai didn't stop, just slowed and knelt, slowing her pace and slid up to the panther, smelling an intoxicating aroma. Smiling, she pet the panther, who in turn stayed still, but a small smile could be seen. The foxes seemed to dissipate into red smoke and disperse into the wind. Standing, the panther kept up with Kurenai, who was joined by the others. Soon the teams, plus Wild Cat, all find themselves up at the gate entrance, Izumo and Katetsu guarding the gate as normal. Procedural, what's your business? Izumo asks without a care really, just eyeing the panther that Kurenai is petting. It's huge, up to her belly button while on all fours. Staring up with an amused animal smile, the panther notes Izumo looking at him. Just back from wave, mission successful. C rank turned into an A rank with the turn of Kakashi looked back to see Asuma's team walk up, after finishing a mission just outside the village. Ah, Kurenai, Kakashi, good to see you. The chain smoker just pulled out another cigarette and lit it, taking a drag. Mission went well, I see. Asuma drawled off, taking in the look of Kurenai, along with the panther that seemed to be staring back at him. Taking a surprised step back, he clears his throat. Well, Team 10 back from a mission to find Tora. The two teams groaned and the panther seemed to sweat drop at this. Kurenai, you're looking lovely. Something seems different about you today. Asuma smiled a friendly smile. Too friendly, Kurenai could feel the panther start to get agitated. Yes, well, thank you. Turning to the guards, she made a show of standing up straight and moving her hair, showing the pendant, making sure Asuma saw it before continuing. Can we go in now? We must report to the Hokage. Yes, of course, sorry. Katetsu smiled and opened the gate with Izumo, letting the 3 teams in. Shikamaru took the time to study the panther, for all of 3 seconds. The cat in his hands was the main problem. Choji barely glanced at it, leaving the fact that if he didn't disturb it, maybe he would be fine. Ino couldn't take her eyes off of it, the sun glinting off its fur, and a foreign animal she hasn't seen much of, especially in person. She blinked and looked away when she felt the awkwardness of its purple feral eyes, staring back, as if into her soul. She shivered, not liking the idea, and fell in step with the other teams and her sensei. So, Kurenai, how was the mission besides successful? Asuma attempted conversation with the Raven Rose. It was interesting to say the least. Noting she looked down at the panther as she was talking, he glanced at it to watch it look around the city. That's a nice cat you got there. When did you come by it? More like why the hell did it stay? Taking out a cigarette, he lights it up, taking a drag and exhaling loudly. Just on the road, it was following us and so I took it in. Smiling down at the panther, she rested a hand on its head. No one objected to this. Sakura seemed about to, but Sharon stopped her. Taking note of how she cringed at the smell of the tar-inducing smoke, the panther grinned, noting a rock in its path. A few seconds later it snapped its back paw, barely noticeable, and shot the rock up, hitting the cigarette and sending it into the air. First all was good, walking with the woman he was trying to date, smoking a cigarette, life's good. All of a sudden his cigarette is knocked into the air by an invisible force, sent spinning out of control and landed on the ground, where a civilian walked on it without notice. The hell? Kurenai noticed the exchange and had to try to help herself from laughing. After composing herself she turned back. What's wrong, Asuma? Motioning to his mouth, index and middle fingers slightly open in a V shape, he slightly pouted, hoping it was a fluke. He grabbed another and lit it, only to find the lighter didn't work. Using a small bit of fire manipulation, he lit it and took another drag. The panther used a bit of wind manipulation and knocked it out from his mouth, shredding it with a flick of its tail. Now Asuma wasn't one to get angry fast, but his cigarettes are his outlet for stress. Take them away and he's a ticking time bomb. Quickly he took another one out and lit it, taking a drag and pulling it from his lips instead of keeping it there. Look, mommy. That's a big kitty, can I go pet it? Can I? Without waiting the child ran up and went to touch the panther, who used the dust with earth manipulation to cut out the oxygen for the cigarette. Growling softly, the panther stared at the kid for a second. Hold on, you need to show respect for the panther. They hold pride almost like the lions do, so ask him first and be respectful. Kurenai quickly interjected as the group stopped, taking in the scene, everyone in Team 10 tense, and the others looking curiously. Oh. I'm sorry, kitty, may I please pet you? The child held its hand out and let the panther sniff it, putting up the act. I'm so sorry. He got out of my sight. Kugi, you know not to run off like that, and be careful. The mother scolded her son, worried for his safety with the panther. Looking up apathetically, the panther nudged the boy's hand softly, letting him know it's fine. With a small squeal the boy set out to petting the cat, scratching behind its ears, and giggling when it purred. Come on Kuro, we need to go. Kurenai's voice split the air, the giggling stopped but the smiling boy waved at them as they left to the Hokage's office. The panther looked up and gave the equivalent of an raised eyebrow, to which Kurenai used seals to answer. Just needed a name, don't worry Kuro, it won't stick. Maybe. Kurenai mentally smiled and laid a hand on the cat's head. The panther just snorted and kept in stride as they walked into and through the halls of the building. Teams 7 and 8, mission to Wave, the Hokage is expecting us. Kurenai spoke to the secretary who nodded and gave the big cat an odd look. Team 10, mission to catch Tora, the Hokage is also expecting us. The secretary nodded again and let them through. Kakashi knocked and heard a low enter, then opened the door. Walking into the top room of the tower, Where the leader sat, they all stood at attention, even the panther sat slightly straighter on its haunches. The Hokage merely glanced at the panther and raised his eyebrow at the show of respect from the wild animal, that is before it jumped on his couch and laid down. Hinata looked at the panther and giggled, taking a seat by it and running her fingers through its fur. To which Kurenai glanced back at her, reminding her of where they were. Sitting up straighter, Hinata kept petting the panther, but looked more professional. Okay. Well, first is first, report, in ascending order. The Sandaime ordered and packed his pipe with tobacco. Team 7, led by Hitaki Kakashi, mission successful, we encountered an A-rank missing nin, Zabuza Momochi, and his apprentice Haku. Turning the mission form C to a rank, and are told to be paid as soon as they regained control from Gato, who took over and dropped the country into poverty. Kakashi spoke fluid and calm. Team 8, led by Yuhi Kurenai, mission successful, accompanied Team 7, led by Hitaki Kakashi. Stated quickly but calm, knowing everything was said, except one, and that was a surprise for the old man. Team 10, led by Sarutobi Asuma, mission successful, Tora was caught on the edge of the forest of death. Grabbing the cat he hands it to the daimyo's wife, who was waiting the whole time, and crushed it into her chest. Legs could be seen flailing around, along with a tail, pinned straight. That's what you get, kitty. The panther thought idly, watching the poor cat suffocate. Very good, you're all dismissed, Team 7 and 8, you may have a few days off after your first C-rank mission. Team 10, I will see you sometime tomorrow, I'm assuming. Getting a nod from his son, the Sandaime took a good long drag from his pipe as Team 10 left, along with Kiba, Sasuke, Sakura, Shino, and Sharon. After the door clicked, the Sandaime addressed the rest in the room. I'm assuming you're all here for a reason, right? What is it? Asking professionally, he took a few more drags. What happened to the old man that used to run this village? This Sarutobi seems to be more cold, withdrawn almost. Within the span it took for the man to turn and look out the window, Naruto seemed to appear and took the place of the panther, in which Kurenai took the seat next to him. Hinata scratching behind his ears, and his arm around Kurenai's waist. It was at this time that Iruka came in the room from the back room, unnoticed by everyone present, to drop off more paperwork. Hey, old man. Long time no see. Don't I get a hi at least? Accompanied in between his small sentences was a low purring sound as Kurenai was stroking his whisker marks gently. A few things happen in only a few seconds. First, the Hokage dropped his pipe, and Iruka started to scream at the boy, before the Hokage's shattered pipe made its presence. All eyes turned to the Hokage, watching and waiting for his reaction. Slowly, ever so slowly, the professor brought himself to turn around, and just as slowly, his body reacted, first taking a look out of the corner of his eye and gasping. After the first glimpse, he spun half-circle as fast as any shinobi could, taking in the boy on the couch, not even noting Kurenai and Hinata. Minato. No, he died. That could only mean, oh dear, can it be? Naruto. Not believing his eyes, the Sandaime slowly crept forward. Yay, it's me, long time no see nay. A smile crept up onto his face as the old man took Kurenai's place with his hand, feeling to see if it's true. I thought that as long as I met up with Konoha, I might as well come visit, or possibly stay. That so far is debatable. After taking a glance at Kurenai mid-sentence, Sarutobi finally took notice of her, eyes widening as the kunoichi blushed deep crimson. And of course, I've missed you, old man, it's been a while, I had to come see you at the very least. Nodding, the Sandaime knew what he meant. If nothing happened between them, he would have come anyway, if nothing more than to see an old man like me. Smiling, the Sandaime nodded again and sat back, more cheerful than anyone has seen him for a good 9 years. Well then, my boy, what do I owe this pleasure? Kurenai, Kakashi, and Iruka were stumped, the Hokage. Owing pleasure. Just what did these have in common? Just your time, old man. Nothing more. I may decide to stay, if that's fine with you. Hiruzen couldn't do anything but smile brightly at this. Of course, I will give you your inheritance and you can move in there whenever you feel like it. Of course, this means. The Hokage was cut off when his secretary came in, took one look at Naruto and blushed. Don't forget the council meeting you were called to, Hokage, it will be starting in about a half hour. She closed the door after taking another glance at the feral man on the couch. Naruto noticed the Hokage sigh. Old man, what happened to you? You were the Hokage, now you're like, the council's bitch. Everyone gasped at his analogy, but the Hokage knew he was right. I mean, come on, they have more power than you now. And it's all cause of your laziness. You forget, this is a shinobi village, not some ransacked civilian place. You own this village, and you control it, old man. Everyone was stunned. This boy had just come in and basically talked down to the Hokage, to which he did nothing back. Iruka stared at the boy, slowly his anger rising. Listen you. Enough, Iruka, the boy is right, I have been slacking, and this is my village. The Hokage stopped him swiftly. You are also the god of shinobi, if I remember, you lived through 2 wars, and you're letting these pansies push you around Sarutobi. Naruto continued, calling him by his name. To which the Hokage knew he was serious, his demeanor changed, he sat up on the couch, Kurenai holding onto his arm with hers, Hinata staring at his hand, Kakashi and Iruka dumbfounded. Yes, you are right, Naruto, I believe it's time for change, though I may need some help, they do have more power than me. So Naruto Namikaze, will you help me with this? Also, I would inquire as to how you know about the council and this village so thoroughly after so long. Smirking slightly, he answered with, Old man, you really think I'd leave and not have at least one spy in the village? If there ever was a chance, I'd want to return. They have my specific orders to just get information, nothing more, nothing less. Well, turning into Jiraiya already, aren't you, Naruto? Smiling, Sarutobi reached over the desk, offering his hand to the boy. Naruto grinned, his old man back, nodding and getting up to shake his hand, Kurenai and Hinata in tow, he bows lightly. I'll be seeing you, old man, I presume I will be placed on a genin team. Just tell me which one soon enough. Call me if you need me, I'll arrive. Naruto grinned and grabbed Hinata's hand, leaving in a shunshin of snow, that sparkled before melting into nothing. Kakashi, Iruka, you may leave, I have a meeting to get to. The Hokage grinned and walked out the door, a prideful aura around him. Appearing just outside the building, Naruto let go of both of them and stood facing them. It's been a while since I've been back, how about some nice food? Ichiraku's is great for ramen, I say we go there, anyone else in for it? Both women looked at one another and nodded to Naruto. Alrighty, good, well, it's this way, so. He grabbed their hands and pulled them towards the restaurant at a normal pace. Kurenai looked over at Hinata, who looked a bit red and had a zoned out look in her eyes. Seems she has a crush on Naruto, this can't end well. Naruto moved the curtains away and sat down with Kurenai next to him, and Hinata on her other side. Oi, old man, 3 beef ramen. Naruto yelled into the shop. Hey, you can not come in here talking like that. Tyuki came around the corner and dropped the bowl he was cleaning, which crashed to the floor, shattering into hundreds of pieces. Naruto, he said in a low whisper. Ayame, get out here and serve our guest. After some murmuring and shuffling, a brunette teen walked out in with a pad and pencil. What can I get for you today? 3 miso, 2 beef, 2 chicken and some of your cinnamon tea please. A beef for me and some herbal tea. Miso please, with some honey tea. Quickly writing without looking up, Ayame walked to the back and prepared the food. Tyuki looked after his daughter and knew her depression, though wondered why she didn't look up at the customer. So, old man, how's business been around here? Naruto asked, quietly taking Kurenai's hand. Kurenai looked over and saw Hinata grabbing chopsticks for them all. Well, it's been. Tuki smiled at him. Not even close to as good as when you were here, but it's alright. Taking a quick look, he continued. She's been really down since you left. Every year she gets like this. He motioned to Ayame, who was just finishing the noodles. Here you are. Ayame somberly set down the bowls and took a seat to relax. Itadakimasu. The three said in unison and dug into their food. So Ayame, how have you been? He could see her ears perk up slightly and she just shook her head. I've been alright, I guess. I miss my little buddy. Finally she looked up to see who was talking to her. Naruto. Jumping over the counter she hugs him, missing the ramen bowls, they both fell to the floor. Where have you been? Around Ayame. Around. Smiling softly he patted her back as she got up and blushed. Good to see you're back, Naruto. You'll have to explain your trip sometime. She got back to work in a much more perkier mood than before, humming a tune. Taking his seat, Naruto glanced at Kurenai and saw her delicately eating her noodles and reading a poster on the far wall. Grabbing his chopsticks he makes his way to finish his ramen, done with a couple bowls in only a few minutes. Sipping at his tea he sighs contently. Seeing Hinata next to him and how she was eating almost identically as her sensei, he couldn't help but glance back at Kurenai, and back to Hinata, shrug, and continue with his delicious noodles. Setting his finally bowl down with a content sigh, he stretches, popping his shoulders and back. Well, taking a quick sip of his tea he notices it's almost gone. It's getting late, I guess I should find a hotel and get Hinata home. Quickly he finishes his tea and pays for the whole meal. Yes, that would be nice, thank you Naruto. Hinata couldn't seem to keep her blush down at him being nice. Well then let's get going, Kurenai. Yay, I'll walk her with you, Hiyashi might be waiting at the entrance. Getting up she stretches and finishes her tea. You know Naruto, you never did say where you've been. Hinata takes up initiative to start the conversation. Well, I've kinda just been wandering around, not really set on one place in particular. Though I can foresee the hell that will be raised by staying here. I'm almost positive I'll be called for a council meeting soon enough. Sliding his hands into his pockets he take a comfortable casual pace. Naruto, you get jealous easily don't you? Glancing at Kurenai he grinned. Animalistic possession. I'm not sure, just seeing as we're dating, and you don't seem to like that Asuma guy. I just feel, air protective I guess is the word. Slowly the blush on Kurenai's face rose, and he didn't miss it. He's sweet, I wish I could find someone like that. Hinata thought to herself as she smiled for her sensei. Well, I enjoy your protectiveness, just don't go overboard. Kurenai mock scolded him as they reached the Hyuga estate gates. Hinata, Hyuga, where have you been? A cold voice from behind the gates sounded out before they started to open up. I was just at dinner with Kurenai-sensei. Sorry father, I forgot to come tell you first. Hinata was looking a bit paler than normal and Naruto was wondering why. This is her family, why does it sound more like he couldn't give a shit about her? You would remember that if you came home after your mission like you said you would. I heard from Neji that you were back when he saw you in that filthy ramen stand down the street. Glaring as the gates finally opened, Hiyashi took notice of the new arrival to their group. And who might this be? Hiyashi stared, right into purple steel eyes, bearing a glare right back at the Hyuga head. Hiyashi Hyuga, twin to Hizashi Hyuga, branch member, sent to Kumo as retribution for killing an ambassador. Head of the main branch family, wielder of the Kekkei Genkei, the Byakugan. Genin team consisted of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and Sume Inuzuka. Naruto called off almost in a trance. His cold eyes darted back up to Hiyashi's as they slowly turned into that of a hawk. Hiyashi took a step back and activated his Byakugan instinctively, taking a look at the boy's eyes as they morphed. Chakra seeped into them, then just stopped, as if the transformation was a part of his body that once changed, could sustain itself. Boy, who are you? The head Hyuga states, taking a slightly defensive stance, barely noticeable to untrained eyes, not Naruto's hawk eyes. The precise movements he took showed he was ready to strike, or defend at a moment's notice. Smirking, Naruto scoffs. Why don't you add 2 and 2? You were on his team. He looks like me. I'll give you a hint, he was the Yondaime. Seeing that Hiashi took a deliberate step back, he continued. Still don't know. My mother left me for dead, in the hands of one of the clans. Hiyashi's eyes widened, the shock so great he actually deactivated his Byakugan. I should have noticed by your eyes, you're her child. Minato's son. He could barely wrap his mind around the concept. If you were left with a clan and lived, you must have gotten away, meaning it had to be a clan that was either too nice, or wiped out. Fugaku wanted me as his test subject, his plaything, so I could become his weapon. Naruto slowly let his eyes change back to his normal red-lined pupil. Hinata couldn't help but gape. Her father was just talked down to. And he's not retaliating, on the contrary, he's being civil. She gasped when she heard about the Uchihas and glad for their demise at the hands of the clan prodigy. Kurenai, on the other hand, was thinking deeper into the situation. Naruto was held in with Fugaku, used as an experiment, and suddenly out of nowhere Itachi kills them all. It makes no sense, unless of course, Itachi wasn't on his father's side, and on the village's side instead. Which could mean only one of a few things, either he took it into his own hands, or he was ordered to kill them all. Thinking back to the dream she had, she gasped. She was by the Uchiha complex when she heard the screams. Glancing at Naruto, she grabbed his hand gently and moved towards him. Hiashi did not miss this, he was acutely taking in the situation. His daughter seemed to be infatuated with the boy, who appeared to be with her sensei. This could not end well for his daughter. Yes, well, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything back then. I wish I could have, but the council stopped everyone's actions to help you. I know, I may have been young, but I noticed that much. Naruto growled out at the council members, but Hiashi couldn't help but flinch. Well, I'm assuming you have things to do, Namikaze. You've been gone for a long time now. Come, Hinata, there's training to be done, and Neji has been waiting in the dojo for a little while now for that match I wanted you to partake in. Taking a sidestep to allow her in, he nods to Naruto. Yes, father. Goodbye, Kurenai sensei. Naruto. Smiling back at the two, she walks into the gate, dreading what was to come. Watching the gates close, Kurenai turns her attention to the teen attached to her arm. Naruto. The past is the past. I'll walk you home, and I need to find a hotel for a while. Staring blankly forward, he lets her guide him to her house. Stealing glances at him, she worries for him, past or not, it still happened to him and could affect him. Naruto feels her eyes glance at him and just sighs inwardly, hoping she doesn't act on her thoughts if they're too far out there. Walking through the park, some kids stared at Naruto. Kurenai giggled when they did. Some had wide eyes, as did their parents, thinking the Yondaime was back from the dead. Lacing his fingers with hers, he feels the nightly wind flutter through his cloak. Seeing a woman with purple hair walking towards them, his senses instantly flare up with the smell of snake, stiffening his eyes transform on instinct into tiger's eyes. Kurenai smiles seeing her old friend, but it falters when she feels Naruto stiffen a bit. Hoping he isn't like everyone else, he was through almost the same thing, right? Anko was happily eating her dango at her favorite shop. Pulled out the money for her dining and took her last piece to go. Walking down the street, she decided to walk through the park. It was nice and it always had a good sunset if you sat on the right bench. Munching on her dango, she looked past the park to see her friend, Kurenai, walking with some guy, who just put his hood up and laced his fingers in Kurenai's. Slowly she stops as the wind blows past her and she sees Kurenai smile at her. An odd feeling of happiness for her friend but blankness for herself flooded her. Looking to the teen, she noticed his eyes shining purple, almost glowing. They seemed to be primal, cat-like slits as they stared at her. Shrugging it off, she started walking again, intent on talking with Kurenai for a bit, maybe spending the night at her house like usual. The teen really perplexed her. Kurenai wasn't dating, was she? If so, where did she meet this one at? Kurenai was on edge. She didn't know what Naruto was thinking, or if instincts alone made him stiffen, but she was worried. Slowly she and Naruto made their way and met up with Anko, though she couldn't shake this paranoid feeling she was getting. Kur-chan. Anko screamed as they got closer together. She came up and hugged the rose right out of Naruto's grasp. Surprisingly, he didn't growl. How was your mission? She pulled away and let the raven-haired woman answer. Glancing at the unknown boy, she answered. It was eventful to say the least, but it was a success. Gato was controlling Wave and we had to get through Zabuza and his apprentice before killing Gato and taking it back. Well, that's good then. Anko glanced at Naruto quickly, who caught the glance as he was staring at her. Was wondering about staying at your place tonight, like old times. Yay, that's fine. I'm just going to take a shower and relax a bit tonight and for the next few days. Smiling, Kurenai took the chance to start walking and noticed they both followed her. She could tell Naruto was still staring at Anko. This discerned her a bit. I believe I should be leaving for my hotel soon enough. Naruto chided as they walked. To which Anko thought his voice was heavenly, and Kurenai was reminded of how he sounded on the bridge. I'd invite you to stay at my house, that is if you don't mind sleeping on a couch. Staring back at him, she awaits his answer. Contemplatively he rolls it over in his head a few times. I assume I'll also be making breakfast then. Kurenai grinned and turned around. Of course, why wouldn't you make breakfast for two lovely ladies? She noted how he glances at Anko when she said that but grinned wider nonetheless. Just kill the snake, bitch. Take her out. 10 seconds, tops. Shut up. I'm not going to listen to you. Feeling his body start to burn, he continued the walk with the two. If you don't, I'll make you, human. Growling deeply, he feels a major headache coming on. Brat, her master did this to me, to us, get revenge for us. It won't take long, she won't even notice until too late, just drive your blade through her heart. Feeling the burning intensify, his growling starts to raise in volume, still too soft for his companions. If you don't shut up, I'm going to what? Huh, human, what will you do? Sighing, Naruto takes a breath and relaxes his body, pushing the heat back to his stomach. Hearing a loud scream in his head, he grins. Serves you right, bitch. Grinning to himself as he turned the burning chakra right back. Damn you, I will get you for this, human. Giving no thought to the femininity of the voice, he continues walking with the two. Glancing at the purple-haired Kunoichi, he scowls. Still, she smells too much like him, too much snake, setting my instincts off. Shaking his head, he rests his hands behind his head and walks on. Glancing worriedly at the boy, Kurenai couldn't help but feel paranoid. He's scowling and grunting, as if somehow internally in pain, and fighting with himself. She notices how he keeps glancing at Anko, and can tell she notices too, if the fidgeting is any indication. Wondering if this was a good idea, she unlocks her door and lets them both in. A small house, with a single bedroom, bath and kitchen. It had a homey feeling every time she opened the door and came in. Well, come on in, you two, I'll make some tea, you two sit in the living room. Motioning to the puffed up pieces of furniture showing how comfy they are. Taking to the two-person love seat, Naruto takes his cloak off and sets it over the armrest. After taking his shoes off, he sits and stares out the window, his eyes still that of a tiger, red seem to have seeped into the iris from the edges. Going to the one-person chair across from the love seat, Anko took her shoes off and coiled her feet under her on the chair. Seeing Naruto glance at her, she takes a look, seeing the red start to slowly recede. In that instant she was filled with fear, before the red was completely gone, and he looked away back out the window. Wah! What was that? I couldn't move, the killing intent so accurate at me, I'm sure no one else even felt it. Taking the time to examine him, she notices how toned her is. Little to no fat at all muscle. Oval-like face with 6 horizontal marks, 3 on each cheek. His eyes were a deep amethyst. As they changed back to normal, a red ring formed around the pupil. Well-built body, toned but not so much to impede movement. The air around him held confidence, pride, and instinct. She shivered, feeling her body react to how he acted and looked. Damn, primal look, instinctive aura, that's damn hot. I'm not going to lie to myself, she's lucky. Grinning to herself, Anko took to watching Kurenai, hoping she'd hurry. Fidgeting a bit, she waits, and waits. Glancing at the door seconds before Kurenai came through, Naruto smiled and took his tea. Kurenai handed Anko her tea and sat next to Naruto for a few reasons, mainly she was straight across from Anko. So tell me, how have you been this last month or so, Anko? Grinning, she sipped her tea. Oh, just some and a few spy missions really. Nothing big, the normal, you know how it is. Nodding, Kurenai smiled. The only thing out of normal is you coming back with this guy. She motions to Naruto. Other than that, nothing's really been going on for me. Taking notice that he didn't even acknowledge her, no glare or even glance, she scowled. Yay, well, it's a long story and I'm willing to listen to it. Anko grinned as Kurenai seemed to fluster for a second before discreetly motioning to her neck. That's when Anko saw it for the first time, the necklace, and one thing that wasn't returned to Wave. Getting the hint of later, Anko grinned and nodded. You know, Gaki, I seem to recognize you for some reason. Naruto finally looked up at the snake mistress. Is it cause I'm the Yondaime's son? Naruto said slowly, like she was stupid. No, not that, from somewhere else, I can't remember though. Thinking, Anko didn't notice he pulled out a bingo book and threw it at her. Glaring, she opened it to the bookmark, and read. Yay. That's where I remember seeing you once before. Damn kid, you got a nice bounty on your head. Naruto scoffed. It wasn't that great. Not yet, at least. Maybe after letting it come up a bit he can do some things and get the bounty himself. Grinning at his own thoughts, he tries to figure out how. Zoning everything else out and sipping his tea. Feeling a something slither its way through his arm, he looks down, seeing Kurenai's hand grasp his arm. Looking up at her, he sees her smile. This is good tea, thank you. He smiled, knowing it's a bit late to say that. Laughing it off, Kurenai grins. Thanks, it's a new one I haven't had yet, though I've heard it's good. Glancing at the clock, Naruto sees how late it is, once again time flying when doing nothing. Also noting the time, Kurenai gets up and stretches, saying how she'd be right back, and takes the cups to the kitchen. Anko, feeling awkward once again, gets up to stretch, eliciting a sigh from her bones. Glancing up, Naruto couldn't help but notice just how little she was wearing, that being just a fishnet under the trench coat. Needless to say, he got a good eye full, and raised an eyebrow at her while she grins at him. Like what you see, Gaki? More like wondering how the hell you can fight or run without those causing some sort of discomfort or getting in the way. Naruto grins as she scowls at him. Wait a minute, was that a compliment? Anko glares. Does it matter? Statement which ended the quarrel as Kurenai came back. Well, it's getting late and I'm heading to bed. Naruto noticed she was just in her fishnet and shorts again. Remember, Naruto, you're making breakfast. Yay, whatever. Smiling, Naruto stood up and went over to the couch. Might as well try to sleep then, nay. Kurenai quickly grabbed him a blanket and pillow. If you need these, I'll set them at the foot of the couch. Seeing him nod, she leans down. Make a big breakfast, Naruto. Smiling, she kisses him quickly and sets off to the bedroom, Anko hot on her heels. Going to girl chat probably. She knows I don't need these, right? No sense letting them just sit there. Grabbing the bed dressings, he set up a moderate comfy bed and lay down, hands behind his head, and let his mind wander. Before the door could even shut, Anko was off. Okay Kur-chan, I want details, out with it girl. Smiling at her friend. Now whatever do you mean Anko? Grinning, she jumps onto her bed, feeling Anko jump after her and tackle her. Come on Kur-chan, you know what I mean, what's with the gaki? What's going on between you two? How did it happen? The details. With every question she was bouncing while straddling Kurenai's legs. Okay, calm down Anko, sit down and listen. Anko grinned, she loved gossip. Whether she could tell someone or not, she loved it all the same. Well Anko, it isn't much, but we met on the mission. He saved Kakashi and his student Sasuke. Seemingly begrudgingly though, he doesn't like the Uchiha. He got me this necklace when we took down Gato. Well he did, I took out some guards in the place. We took all the money, documents and jewelry, he gave everything but this back. Showing the necklace off a bit, she smiled. That's gorgeous Kur-chan, what's it made of though? Diamond, emerald and ruby, he said. Giggling at Anko's reaction. That must be priceless. She grabbed at it and took a closer look. Yay, well after that, we stayed out by the lake and I fell asleep leaning on him, I guess. He took us into the forest and let me sleep while it. Well, you mean you just fell asleep on him? You won't even talk to most of the men in this village, but you just meet him and sleep on him. Yes, I know, odd, especially for me. We woke up before the teams and our caretaker made us a special breakfast. Soon after that we went to train. Well, I trained the team. How does he train? Is it brutal, or is it casual? Well, brutal to you or I, but casual for him. I mean, unless you go up again 400 clones of yourself as training. Smiling, she saw her friend's eyes go wide as she fell and plopped on the bed. Holy shit. Anko bounced back up. He has to have the chakra of a cage or more. And stamina. Don't get me started, Kurenai. Blushing deeply at the implications, she shook her head. No. Anko, we didn't do anything like that. Anko pounced on her again. Oh come on Kur-chan, you can tell me you didn't you? So long you couldn't stand it. Or was it that he couldn't stand it, huh? Huffing, Anko got off her. Fine. Can I continue now? She nodded. Good. After that we found out he was nature's wrath. Mind you, this whole time his clones were fixing and building the bridge. Anko nodded again, intrigued. Well, the second night he was with us, he went upstairs into a room while we all slept downstairs. That is until I woke up and followed him, still sleepy and all. Oh, of course, blame sleep. Grinning, Anko motioned for her to continue. Rolling her eyes at her friend. Well, I slipped into these clothes. Motioning to the ones she wore now. And slipped into bed with him. I just couldn't seem to get comfy until I laid on him again. Nothing happened, I just slid onto him and fell asleep. He's so warm and his scent is intoxicating. Mixed together it's just like a natural sleep aid, welcomed or not. She laughs at how she fell asleep a few times unwillingly. You realize how uneventful this is for me, right? Anko stared blankly at her. You're the one wanting details on what happened. And nothing good happened. Anko whined. Well, there was that kiss when our caretaker made us breakfast. But you wouldn't like to hear about that. Grinning, Kurenai could see her friend brighten up. Come on Kurenai, tell me what it was like. Grinning at her friend getting something good for once. Well, we made a bet and I lost. I had to do something for him. Anything he wanted. So he told me to close my eyes and he kissed me. At first it was nothing, but after a few seconds it was the most intoxicating, best kiss I've ever had. I was breathless by the end and I'm sure I looked higher drunk. Kurenai giggled, remembering that and the look on Anko's face. Oh come on Anko, it can't be that good. You heard his voice right? She nodded. That's only a sample, it was just as good on my lips as his voice to our ears. Anko's eyes widened. If that's anything to go by, then it must have been good. Smiling a genuine smile, she looked at her friend. Kur-chan, I'm happy for you. Closing her eyes with the smile she felt for her friend, she plopped onto the bed again. If that's all, then I guess you really didn't have. Damn, and I was thinking you might be holding out on me now. Laughing with Anko, she couldn't help but see the time. Come on, let's sleep, it's getting late and I want to get up and eat some of his breakfast tomorrow as soon as possible. Turning the lights off, Kurenai slips under the covers, Anko right behind her. Kurenai laid on her back, being the comfiest position right now. Soon Anko slid up on top of her, cheek resting on her breast, fast asleep in seconds. Smiling, Kurenai rested her hand on her friend's hair. Good night, Anko. Letting her other hand fall on the snake mistress' arm, she fell asleep. Hokage-sama. A bear-masked Anbu appeared in the room as called. Yes, Bear, I need you to inform a Naruto Namikaze that he is wanted in the council chambers tomorrow at 1 o'clock if you will. Pick him up then, you have the rest of the night off. Sarutobi smiled. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will inform Namikaze tomorrow. Good night, sir. Bowing, the Anbu left in a swirl of leaves and the Sarutobi took a drag from his pipe. Yes, I think tomorrow will go well, my friend. Sarutobi stares at the picture of the Yondaime. Sighing, Naruto found he couldn't sleep. Being back here, all he could think about while on the brink of sleep was the Uchiha. The first few times he fell asleep for a few minutes, all he saw were the purple eyes of Onkashina. Glaring, throwing daggers with her eyes, ridding herself of this boy. Why is she always glaring at me? Naruto sighed again and threw of the other dream he had while trying to sleep. Somehow he got away. Maybe they let him to toy with him. It didn't matter, he was hungry, he wanted to get out. More than anything, he was scared. He was so scared he couldn't even cry. All his tears wasted in that lab, as they called it. Move, move. Come on, legs, move faster. Glancing back, he saw no one was chasing him and settled down a little bit. Hiding in a bush, he pulled out the only thing he had on him, a rusted kunai. Making his way through the forest on the edge of the complex, he spotted a dog. He thought it was a dog. He didn't care, he wanted food and he was going to eat. Running at the oversized dog, he managed to get the upper hand and plunge his kunai into its back, before it growled and bit his arm. Not even screaming, he sliced the animal's stomach open, letting its organs fall out as it bled to death. Sighing, he sat down and stabbed the heart, ending its life, and stated to cut out the organs and skin the animal. Hearing a rustling, he looked back. 2 more managed to come by. That's when he realized these weren't dogs, they were wolves. Always in a pack of only a few. Picking up his kunai, he doubted he would make it out, but he'd be damned not to fight back. The 2 wolves charged in and one bit his leg, pulling him to the ground, and it led the way for the kunai to land perfectly into the wolf's heart. Feeling the jaw lax, he tried to stand, shifting his weight on the good leg. The final wolf lunged and Naruto ducked, but caught the wolf's paw on his head, flinging him back and dropping his kunai. Seeing its opportunity, the wolf lunged again and landed on him, arms pinned by its paws. It quickly went for the kill but stopped when the boy's body began releasing pheromones that was related to wolves, and his muscles started to change and contort. Jumping away, the wolf watched in morbid fascination as the boy transformed into a wolf himself. Naruto had passed out a bit ago, his body taking a mind of its own thanks to his bloodline. With all the grace of a wolf, Naruto's body lunged and sunk its teeth into the other wolf. Shaking it off, the wild wolf snapped at Naruto's front paw, nipping its already bloody wound. Growling, Naruto went for the kill, straight to the throat, and latched on, shaking his head and throwing the wolf to the ground. Not taking the chance, he sinks his teeth into the wolf, tearing flesh and fur. His bloodline, along with hunger, led with instincts, he tore at the flesh and swallowed greedily, feeding off all 3 corpses. Shuddering, Naruto was glad he passed out. He didn't think he would have been able to do that otherwise. It took a while, but he finally got himself cleaned up. I can't believe they still found me though, even while I was inside the tree I dug out. I can't sleep. Sitting up, Naruto went to the bathroom and splashed water on his face. Why do I have this foreboding feeling that something bad will happen soon? Taking his time, he went to the kitchen and got a small cup of water, taking it with him to the living room and sat down sipping at it. Looking at the clock, he found it to read 3:15 hours and I still haven't slept. Doesn't look like I will. Let's see what she has for food, see if I need anything in the morning. Looking in the cupboards and fridge, he found he only needed a few things for the dango, and his secret spice to cook with. Good, I won't have to get much then. Sitting back at the chair Anko was in before he grabbed a book on her shelf and started to read it. Nagato the Gutsy Ninja. He couldn't help but feel like he should know what this was about. He felt connected just reading the name of the character. Naruto noticed after flipping to the back that half the pages were blank. He thumbed the first blank one and read a few more pages, going back and forth between it wondering why it was blank, before words seemed to appear on the pages. What's going on? Is the book made so the ending can't be seen unless you've read it? Reading the newly printed page, he noticed how different the character's attitude was from the beginning, as if a different author wrote it, or as if the character drastically changed from then to the start. Weird book. Naruto noted and started from the front again, reading on. After a while he was able to reach halfway through the book, and the book seemed to grow as he read, pages just never seemed to end. Taking a break and noting his page, Naruto looked at the time, seeing the clock now read 6:30, he decided to go out and buy a few things for breakfast. Cracking the window open, he jumped out and went to the shopping district. Okay, well, I need something sweet. A bit of this, and that. Ooh, that would taste good. Mentally checking everything off, he gets small cart filled up and grabs a flavored water for himself. Getting up to the checkout, he pulls out a rounded amount for the supplies as the cashier rings it up. Grinning, he finds out he was over by only a few ryo and told the cashier to keep the change. After bagging it, he quickly left and took out his water, sipping at it and walking back to Kurenai's home. On the road he saw a few people that stared at him awkwardly. He waved and they seemed dazed and waved back. Smiling, he capped his water and enjoyed the early morning air. Sasuke-kun, let's go on a date. He was enjoying it anyway. Looking back, he saw the two from Kakashi's team, Sasuke and Sakura. Not wanting to be seen, Naruto quickly jumps to the rooftops and speeds up. God, I'd rather play roulette than have to talk to him. Spoiled brat. Jumping down in front of Kurenai's, he didn't notice how Hinata seemed to watch him enter the window, as she saw him get out also, her walk to and from a store down from her complex. Wonder what he's going to do. Maybe I'll visit Kurenai-sensei for lunch. Idly thinking as she walked through the gate and nodded to the branch guard. Father had been less strict since seeing Naruto. What's going on with him? Setting down a few supplies, she got to work on making breakfast for her and her cousin Neji. Sliding the window shut and setting the groceries on the table, he started to put them away, telling himself he'll wake the others with food around 10. Looking at the clock, it was only 7:15, taking only 45 minutes to finish his trip. Thanks to that blasted Uchiha. Taking his time, he pulls his water back out and heads to the couch, taking a drink and laying down after taking his shoes back off. Sighing for his refreshment, he closes his eyes contently, satisfied at how comfy the couch is and how the water slides down his throat. The corner of his eye caught movement in the hallway and instinctively changed to hawk eyes, spying a body in the hallway. Come on out, I can see you. Naruto called, uncaring, taking another drink. Slowly from the dark, Anko emerged from the hallway and sat down in front of Naruto on the floor. Is there something you want? Or are you going to sit there all morning? Shouldn't you be asleep? Naruto asks quickly. Maybe I should be, but I heard a window open and close up. I was checking on it and saw you awake. Shouldn't you be asleep also? Anko remarked. Sighing, Naruto takes another drink. Would if I could, but I can't. What do you really have to say, Snake? Turning his head, he stares at her. Flinching, she turns away slightly before turning back to him. I wanted to thank you for cheering Kurenai up. She seems less stressed out than normal, and if you're the culprit, then thank you. I might be, not sure yet. Taking a drink, he continues. I just like seeing her happy. She's gorgeous, and as of yet I haven't seen her in a down mood. I guess that means I am the reason she's happier. Yay, well, don't let this get to you, but thanks, Gaki. Standing up, Anko kisses his cheek in thanks, and grins wide. Don't let it get to you, but I'll kill ya if you hurt her, Gaki. Taking the path back to the bedroom, she stops in the hallway. I'm glad to hear she's better. She seems so much better than before the mission. Almost like when I first met her. Retreating to the room, she takes her place back on top of Kurenai and falls asleep in seconds. Brat. She, the snake, called me a brat. Issues much. Finishing off his water, he sets the bottle next to his shoes and closes his eyes. With nothing left to do, he meditates. After so long in his trance, he opens an eye to check the time. 9:30, perfect. Stretching and sitting up, he yawns quietly and heads to the kitchen. Taking out all the ingredients for the dishes he's about to prepare, he turns the water on, letting it warm up. Pulling out seemingly random things, from garlic powder to fish, he sets them all on the counter in the middle of the kitchen. There, got everything but the bread for the dango. Quickly grabbing it, he takes out a few pots and pans, spatulas and spoons, a knife, and a fork. Washing his hands to get ready to cook, he starts with the spice. Taking a bowl from the cupboard, he starts mixing all the seasonings he bought along with a few already in the house. Taking out a scroll, he tapped a little bit of a black powder into the mix and churned the powders. Taking a spoon, he tests the spice and deems it good enough for breakfast. Heating the oven and filling a pot with water, he set a pan on the stove and greased it with a little oil. Turning 2 burners on, he set the water to boil and the pan to heat up while he filleted the fish with the knife, tossing strips into the spice mix and into the pan. Opening a bag of rice, he dumps the entire thing into the pot and lets it soften while he tends to some eggs and grabs another pan. To an observer, it would look like her was randomly throwing things and getting lucky with how it all turned out. Slowly, Naruto started to hum while cracking the eggs and setting them in the pan. Turning the rice down, he turns and grabs a pinch of the spice and lets it rain over the pot, mixing up the rice with a spoon. Turning slightly, he grabs the spatula and flips the eggs along with the fish. I can see where you are. I can tell you're enjoying it so far. Grabbing the bread, he quickly sets it in another pan to darken, grabbing the sweets to mix with the bread. I would love to escape, but now I am bound by the burn of your eyes looking on as I am starting to realize. Grabbing some peppers and veggies, he starts to chop them up and toss them in with the eggs and fish. Taking the spatula and flipping the eggs to simmer a bit more, he tests the rice. Deciding it needed more, he starts churning it and pinching spice into it. Grabbing some cheese with one hand, he sprinkles it over the pepper-filled eggs and a bit on the fish. I'm a pawn in your game, and this checkmate. Grabbing some lettuce, he drops it with the eggs and turns the burner off, using the spatula to close the eggs, melted cheese holding it together. Taking the pan, he sets it on a pad on the counter. Grabbing the bread and sweets, he mixes them together into larger balls of dango than what he saw the shop sold. Taking another batch of darkened bread, he starts making his famous dango. As the roses lift their heads to catch a glimpse of my demise. Setting all the dango down on a cookie sheet, he sets it in the oven to cook a bit before flipping the fish again. Grabbing another pan, he grabs a steak that he bought and lets the pan heat up with oil, setting the steak in after cutting the fat off. Turning the burner off, he takes the rice and sets it by the omelets. Tending to the steak, he pushes the spatula down onto it, getting the grease out, and flips it. Quote, "You'll be throwing lies around like ocean waves throw down the tides." Grabbing the fish, he checks both sides and pulls the slices onto an empty plate. Scooping up the peppers and veggies and putting them on the same plate. Using the pan for fish, he sets bacon onto it and lets the oil and grease from the fish cook the bacon faster, to a light crisp. Checking back on the steak, he presses the grease out and flips it once more, putting spice on both sides, letting it finish darkening the middle. Quote, "And they are breaking on my shore, and the rescue team won't save me now, I'm out too far." Taking the dango out of the oven, he takes one and cuts it open to test it. Perfect. Taste testing it for himself after letting it cool, he sets them on another pad with the other finished food. Grabbing a plate, he presses the steak and sets it on the plate, putting it with the finished food after double checking it was ready and fat-free. Swiftly turning, he takes the bacon off the burner and turns all the burners off, along with the oven. Setting the bacon down with everything else, he goes into the fridge and grabs some fresh fruit he bought in a bowl. Quote, "So I'll waste these nights for a while, but I'll be holding onto you forever." Using the fork to improvise, he somehow squeezes the juice from the oranges into a large jug over the sink. After the jug was filled a third of the way, he adds a bit of sugar and tastes it. Seeing it too strong, he adds a touch of water from the faucet and tastes it again. Nodding, he sets a lid on the jug and puts it with the food. He cuts it up and sets it on a plate by itself for now. Quote, "And this is where my heart is cold and torn, and as I read the words you wrote last night, the butterflies are creeping through my spine." Quote. Cutting the steak in two, he puts each on a plate, splitting the fish and bacon along the two plates. Taking an omelette for each plate, he sets one on a third as well. Taking rice, he puts a large portion on the plate with the lone omelette, using the rest on the last two plates. Splitting the dango in 3 equal portions, he even out all the plates. Taking 3 glasses out, he puts a wedge in each glass and fills one with orange juice, setting it with the seemingly empty plate. Putting a wedge with each piece of steak and fish, he squeezes the last one in his orange juice and tosses the peel in the trash. Looking over at the time, it took a while to make the food, it now said 11:15. Shrugging, Naruto cleaned up the dishes for 15 minutes and went to the bedroom door, which was mostly closed, and knocked softly on the door frame. "Hey, breakfast is ready, you two hurry up before it gets cold." Getting back to the kitchen, he sets up forks for everyone and sits at his spot, tasting his omelette and grinning to himself. Slowly he heard shuffling and some fighting. Before long he saw the two coming in, stretching and yawning the whole way. "Well, now this smells delicious, Naruto." Kurenai smiled at him and sat in one of the seats while Anko took the other. "How did you manage to make all of this? I didn't even have some of it here." She questions, looking to him for an answer. "Kinda snuck out and went shopping." Taking a quick bite of his omelette, he continues. "Well, are you both going to sit there and stare, or try it?" Looking over, he saw Anko hesitate. Looking across the table, Anko watched with bated breath as Kurenai took a bit of the fish and tried it. Hearing Kurenai gasp slightly and grab another bite, she surmised it mustn't be that bad and tried the steak. For minutes all was silent. The only sound was Kurenai cutting her food and munching happily on it, along with Naruto taking a drink of his orange juice. "My god." Anko started softly. "This is delicious." Anko jumped into her food with gusto as Naruto almost dropped his juice and Kurenai grinned at her friend. Finishing up his omelette, Naruto starts with everything but the dango on his plate, working his way across the plate. Anko quickly poured some juice and took a sip. "Damn, even home squeezed OJ." Anko murmured and took to the fish. Kurenai poured some as well and took a few sips before getting back to meal with vigor. Mentally, Naruto was chuckling to himself from the two women's reactions. Is it really that good? He asks himself as he shrugs and take a bite of dango. Grinning to herself, Kurenai was wondering if she should make him a permanent resident for her household right now. This was the best meal she's ever had since her mother made her dinner when she was a kid. Anko was jealous. Beyond that, she envied Kurenai right now. This dango is heavenly. Oh, my God, she so has a keeper. Damn, I'd love to have met him first. Quickly she eyed the boy in question intently. Even lasting only a second, she concluded a few things. Good looker too, doesn't look like he'd be bad in bed, damn her. Taking to her food once again, she swore she let out a moan. Raising an eyebrow at hearing the snake moan from his food, he looked back at Kurenai, who, like a chain reaction, moaned right after her friend. Sweet dropping, Naruto finished his meal and rinsed the plate, standing at the counter and drinking his juice and hums a bit more. Looking up, Kurenai couldn't help but feel happy. She found this guy nice, sweet, good looking, and can cook. It's like she won the lottery for dates. A knock interrupts the peace of the atmosphere in the room and Naruto excuses himself to go get the door. Getting to the door, he turns the lock and opens it quickly, asking a polite, "Yes. How may I help you?" to a somewhat tall, bearded man with a fire handkerchief on his waist. "And who the hell are you?" the man yells out. Seeing another man in Kurenai's house was not what he was expecting. And who the hell are you? Should I know that voice? Looks like your lover is back. Anko teases the crimson eyes Jonin. Damn it, it was such a good morning too. I'll be right back. Getting up quickly, not knowing what could happen, she turns around the corner. Looking around, Anko snickers and steals a dango from her plate as she has yet to touch them. Asuma. Of what do I owe the pleasure? Kurenai asks with light sarcasm as she wedges in front of Naruto, who just moved back and held onto the door for a second before going and pouring more juice. Who the hell is that? Asuma asks, barging in and sitting on the couch without taking his shoes off, tracking dirt through her white carpet. Scoffing, Kurenai glares at him. What does it matter who he is? Closing the door knowing he won't leave without answers, she sit across from him. I come to visit and that guy comes and opens the door, that's what it matters. Why is he here? You said you're not planning on dating anyone while you refused my date before your mission. Asuma looked at her angrily, starting to pull a cigarette out. Don't you dare. You do and you'll never be allowed here again. As for why he is here, he had nowhere to stay last night and I met him a while back, he's getting a new house today. I thought I would let him sleep on the couch, and make me an Anko breakfast. Kurenai saw Asuma scoff at Anko's name. Yay, you're right, I wasn't planning on it, and nobody says me and him are dating. So then you're not dating that guy. Good. Asuma grins and is about to ask her on a date. Actually, I never said we weren't either. Not that it's of any concern to you. Grinning when she sees him scowl, she continues. Now, as I said, I'm eating. If you'd like, you can wait outside until I'm done, or we can try and talk another time. Asuma. Nah, I'd rather stay right here and keep an eye on you. Asuma crosses a leg over his knee and leans back. Sipping at his juice, Naruto stares as Anko still is munching ferociously on her dango. If you like it that much, I can make you more later too. Sna. Anko-san. Naruto commented without looking at her. Swallowing the bit in her mouth, Anko looks at him with surprise for calling her by name. Really? Damn Gaki, I'd love that. This is better than the shop down the street, good. She answered while shoving half of another oversized dango in her mouth. Thanks, I think. Naruto replies while glancing at her, and taking another sip of juice. You know, I mean what I said last night. You hurt her and I'll kill you, you got that? Anko said with killing intent, sent at the boy, who to her surprise only raised an eyebrow. Going to have to do better than that. Pretty protective, you got a crush on the rose. Naruto couldn't help but grin at her blush. Either way, it's good she can have a friend like you. There might be hope for me yet, maybe. Naruto sombers up a bit at the end. Hey now, What do you mean by that, Gaki? Anko asks, eating her dango in a dignified manner, until realizing it was dango and shoving it into her awaiting maw. Well, with that snake's mark on you, and your curse for it, she doesn't seem to hold it against you at all, so maybe my own curse won't be held too highly in consideration. This got Anko to stop eating. How do you know about that? I smell of snake, I get that. How did you surmise what you did with just that? Anko asked nervously, somewhat fearful of this man. It doesn't take a genius. Just like it doesn't take one to see how much you hate him and what he's done, or how you're not associated with him in any way. Anko sighed as he said this. But how will that help you? Well, I'd tell you, but I have no reason to right now. Naruto debates telling her his curse. She knows the same fate with that snake, but then again she might do what the others did before. Try me, you dug up my past, spill it, brat, or I'll make you. Chuckling, Naruto looks at her in all seriousness, with a hint of humor in his voice. I'd like to see you try, snake, I really would. Standing up, Naruto points to his stomach. At first Anko questioned him and just blushed at his muscles. Glaring up, she found him with a raised eyebrow and a smirk. Looking back, she saw a huge intricate seal. Gasping, she speaks. You're the Kyuubi child, aren't you? Getting a nod as he sipped his drink, she shivered. He must be powerful then, but why does he act the way he does? I see that as similar then, isn't it, Gaki? God damn it, get the hell out. Looking down at Anko, Naruto and her both get up from leaning on the counter, or seat, and march to the living room. What the hell is going on here? Anko screams and sees Asuma, obviously pissed, with an unlit cigarette behind his ear, bent over the couch leaning into Kurenai. What does it matter to you, snake bitch? To the surprise to everyone, Naruto was the one to answer from the back, still sipping his juice. You're disrupting a peaceful atmosphere, a nice breakfast, and two lovely ladies' morning. Not to leave out, I'm sure that Kurenai-san doesn't want you here, Sarutobi-san. Naruto said from behind Anko, holding her back by her shoulder with the seal. This one won't say much. Pointing to Kurenai. What about you, snake bitch, you gonna answer? Asuma yells. Naruto quickly wraps an arm around Anko, holding her back, to which she realized, maybe she couldn't kill him, it wouldn't stop her from trying though. Resting his head on her shoulder, he takes another sip of his juice, drawing it out for Asuma, who is getting more pissed by the second. I'm afraid Anko isn't in the mood for exchanging words, now are you? Naruto glances at her, to which she growls back at him. Smiling, Naruto turned his attention back to Asuma. Now, I believe Kurenai asked you to leave. Naruto leant a bit more on Anko, getting comfortable on her shoulder, his breath tickling her neck. Why don't you go do that? The door's right there. Why, you little. Naruto grabbed his arm as he was cocking it back to hit Naruto. Asuma took a double take, two of him. How the hell? Shadow clone. When did he make it? Anko didn't even notice him make it, and he's leaning on her. Kurenai was looking more at Naruto and his behavior with Anko than Asuma for a second. Soon when he talked, she turned to Asuma, only to smirk. I'd really rather not have to fight, so just do what the woman says, Sarutobi-san. Quickly Asuma pulls from the clone's grasp and the clone puffs away. Yay, whatever. Walking out the door, he slams it on the way out. Waiting until the door slams shut, Naruto gets up off Anko, lending a hand to Kurenai to help her up. What's with the sand, Naruto? I thought we got over this. Kurenai asked playfully. You want him to know how close we are? I mean, I could care less, who knows. Thought you did though. Naruto grinned. You seemed awfully comfy on Anko's shoulder, Naruto. She noted how Anko hadn't moved yet and a small blush adorned her cheek. Or maybe she was comfy with you. Grinning, Kurenai teased her friend, who glared and stomped back to her dango. Walking over, he cups her chin and kisses her. Go eat, Rose, I'll clean this mess. He commented on the dirt in the carpet. Smiling sweetly, Kurenai nodded and kisses him back. Thanks, Naruto. The food is delicious, thank you for a nice breakfast. Taking a quick hug, she goes to finish her meal. Taking out the vacuum in the closet, he quickly uses a light water jutsu and cleans up the stains. So Anko, comfy. Giggles Kurenai while eating the steak. He grabbed me, that brat. I didn't say he could grab me, but I just froze when he leant on me. Damn brat. Anko muttered and stole a dango from Naruto's plate. Don't worry about it, Anko. Smiling, Kurenai cuts a piece of steak off again, chewing it for a few seconds. Besides, he's very sweet, he wasn't going to do anything to you, just keep you from getting into more trouble. Yay, whatever, I don't need help. Grumbling, she munches her dango. Well, it's done and I'm going to. There was another knock at the door, and Naruto insisted to open it again. Taking the same approach, he opened the door with, "How may I help you?" Taking in the looks of a masked ninja. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. You are to report to the Hokage at 1 o'clock. I'm here to pick you up. Looking at the clock, Naruto noted it was 10 to. Alright, can you hold a second please? Getting a nod, he quickly ushered the Anbu in and headed for the kitchen. Kurenai, Anko, I must cut my visit short. I am needed at the Hokage's office. Sorry I can't see you finish. Smiling, he leans down and kisses Kurenai. Before he could get up, she pulls him back down, his hand shooting to the table to stable himself before relaxing into the kiss. Ahem, I'm still here, you know. Naruto got away for a second to reply with, yes, and, do you want one too? The humor in his voice was thick and Anko threw a fork at him. Catching it swiftly, Kurenai finally let him go. Using the fork, he took the last dango from Anko's plate. This if for the one you stole from me. Smiling, he munched the dango and tossed the fork in the sink. CYA round ladies. Walking to the other room, he slips his cloak and shoes on in seconds, following the Anbu out the door. Wonder what's going to happen with him at the Hokage's office. Anko ponders out loud. Don't know, but I'm not letting this food go to waste. You full yet? Kurenai asked, getting a slow nod. Jumping up, she grabs some bowls with lids and puts the extra food in them, setting it all in the fridge for later. Kur-chan. Let's go for a walk. Anko bounces around and tugs on her friend's arm. Giggling, she agrees and slips some more clothes on and her shoes, walking out into the peaceful day with Anko. Hey old man, you wanted to see me? Naruto called to the Hokage, who chuckles and motioned to the seat in front of him. Yes, I did, Naruto. We have a council meeting today, for your birthright and heritage. Smiling, he puffs on his pipe. That's great, OG-san. I guess let's get going then. Stupid council. Chuckling, Hiruzen agrees as they make their way down the hall to the council chambers. Wait here while I introduce the meeting, I'll call you in. Seeing him nod, Hiruzen walks in the room. Hokage-sama, why are we all here? Some of us are busy and need to attend to our clans. Hiyashi stated while a few clan heads agreed. Osto it Hiyashi, you just wanna run your poor girl into the ground more. Sume retorts. Hokage-sama, not to be rude, but what is this sudden meeting about? She asks politely, to which the Hokage smiles. To welcome a clan back to Konoha, and appoint the clan head to their rightful spot on the council. Suddenly all the members in the council went silent. A new clan. Welcoming back a clan. And what is this clan to us? Mustn't be too great if they were here once and trying to get back again. Tsukumo Haruno yelled from the back. Ah, but they aren't trying to get in, I'm making sure they do. The Hokage grinned at their stunned faces. Would you please come in? He called to the doors. Sighing, Naruto resigned himself. He heard it all, and it finally made sense as to why he was called here for this. Though it would help the old man, and he'd have power himself. Smiling, he thinks to himself. I might like this just yet. Opening the door, everyone is greeted with the sight of an above-average height male, hidden in a cloak, with silver pants, black flames licking up with red trim. Hi Hokage-sama. He nods without lifting his head, hood covering his face. Standing next to the Hokage, he peers out at all the clan heads. Aburame, Inazuka, Hyuga, Nara, Akamichi, and Yamanaka, along with other clans. Smirking, he spied a seat just for him in the middle, separating everyone on the Shinobi Council. Please remove your hood, the Hokage asked while smiling, which a few in the room did not like the looks of. Nodding, the figure gripped the hood and pulled it back with his eyes closed. Many in the room gasped, thinking the Yondaime was back. Cries of the Yondaime echoed the room. Until he opened his eyes, silence ensued once again. Purple, a red ring around the pupil. The Yondaime had blue eyes, strikingly so. No, I'm not Minato, but I am Namikaze. He states coldly. Clan members meet Minato's son. Naruto. Some of the clan heads gasped, others scoffed. Some growled. One even shouted to have this, Naruto, killed for being a demon. Silence. Everyone looked at the Hokage, who smirked and turned to Naruto. Yes, Naruto. Do you have something to say? Turning to Hiruzen, Naruto nods. Yay, old man, I want my inheritance, and I want my home, then I want this council seat. After that, I want to take you for ramen. Naruto smirked at the end, as did the Hokage. Nodding, he got up and grabbed a few scrolls from a drawer with the Hokage seal over it on his desk. I moved these here knowing this would happen. This is everything they left with me. They? Naruto asks coldly. Yes, your mother too. He answers skeptically, not knowing the past transgressions. I don't want them. Unless they hold some information on my bloodline, you can burn them. Naruto stated, taking Minato's scrolls and storing them in a sealing scroll. I don't understand. She was your mother, you should. Inoichi was intercepted ferociously by Naruto. Mother. That bitch isn't my mother. No mother would do that to their own son. She can rot in hell for all I care. Naruto said as the temperature slowly dropped a few degrees. Naruto-san, if I may, why do you say this about this woman? Sume asks kindly from her seat by Inoichi. Well, since you're so polite, I shall explain to you why. You see, she found out about this curse I seem to have gotten when born. A few people flinched at this. And when she found me, she. Hokage-sama. I'm sorry, but they just burst through and I couldn't stop them, the secretary yelled as a bunch of people filed into the room, taking to the middle of the room past Naruto. Every person in this group had raven hair. Deep, dark, reflective raven hair. The leader had spiked up hair, pushed back into a low ponytail. In a low voice he called out. A council meeting without me. Why the long wait, Hokage-sama? Been on a trip for a while and couldn't find a way back, stranded. Yet you go on like nothing happened. The volume of the male's voice rose quickly. The Hokage noticed a few things. The first on his list was the very person next to him. Naruto stiffened, so much so he hasn't moved since the door burst open and everyone barged in. Seeing his eyes change slowly, the Hokage had no idea what was going on. First the eyes of a tiger, snake, hawk, finally of something he's never seen. A four-pointed star surrounded the pupil, a small circle in the edge of each point. Slowly the star seemed to spin. I'll kill you, Fugaku. You're a dead man, Uchiha. Naruto started to lunge. No one moved, no one could. Naruto's killing intent had everyone's breath missed in the room, and they could barely move, even the Hokage. Pulling out a sword, Naruto kept his pace. A normal blade, thicker and wider and as sharp as any blade out there. The handle was pulled in slightly, giving the blade a tilt. By the hilt was a small half circle, a bent piece of metal in the middle. A small hole at the tip of the blade indicated it was hollowed out. Rushing forward, Naruto swung the blade down at the stunned Uchiha. Kur-chan. Anko, you're right next to me, you don't need to yell. What is it? Turning to her friend, she felt slightly unnerved. Well, first off, let's sit. Anko plopped down on a bench in the park they walked to. The trees were swaying in the breeze, a few were blooming this time of the year, with white or pink flowers on them. Kids sat around the playground interacting with one another, a group of kids swinging her on the jungle gym. Alright, so what's up? Kurenai turns to her friend slightly and crossed her legs. Well, Anko fidgets a bit. It's kinda. Anko, this isn't like you just spit it out. I'm trying, Kurenai. Kurenai's eyes widened ever so slightly, saying her full name shows seriousness from her friend. Alright, I'm sorry, continue. Turning more to her friend to show she's more attentive. Sighing, Anko opens her mouth, but it frozen by an immense killing intent. Looking around, Anko notes how almost every civilian, and anyone under Chunin were out, and dropping like flies around the city. Looking at her friend, they nod and head to the source, the Hokage Tower. Kurenai noted how Anbu controlling the border, miles away, were flying into the city. Every alert Junin was moving into the vicinity also. Suddenly the Anbu stopped, a 5-meter radius around the tower. Junin, foolish enough to try to go past them, were knocked out by the concentrated killing intent. Captain, not even our most skilled unit can make it in there. The killing intent is too much. What's going on? I don't know, Bear. There's nothing we can do though. Let's just hope our Hokage is alright. It's all we can do for a while. Suddenly the killing intent started to lower slightly. No one move, it could be a false alarm. A captain yelled out from the Anbu units. One foolish Anbu decided to go in, and in that same second, the killing intent doubled from what it was before. Suffice to say, the Anbu was knocked out, and knocked back from the tower. A slow mist seemed to form around the tower, showing how cold the temperature had dropped inside. Kur-chan. Isn't Naruto in there? What's going on? She let her sentence run off, as no one could answer her question if they wanted to. Thinking for a second, Kurenai's eyes widened significantly. He is in there. I hope he's okay. He didn't anger the Hokage, did he? She idly thought and stared up at the Hokage's windows, which were close to the council chamber windows. Everyone back now. The same Anbu that took charge before yelled. Everyone leapt back to various building farther away, but within distance to see what was going on. Every available ninja was watching, even Team 7, 8, Team Guy, and Team 10. Somehow the genin weathered the killing intent enough to stand. You're a dead man, Uchiha. Sasuke stiffened in the crowd, and Sakura looked at him with care in her eyes. For a second nothing happened, then a body seemed to crash through and out the council windows, shattering not just the window it came from, but the two on both sides. The Anbu were instantly on guard, Tonto's out and in a defensive stance. The body hit the ground once and bounced, followed by a purple bolt that hit the spot of ground he bounced off of. A black blur shot out, and before the body could hit the ground again it kicked up, sending the body skyward, and landed after a follow-through backflip. In a crouch the black blob shot skyward intent on its target. Was that Naruto? The inside of the black was red, like his cloak. Kurenai started to get worried now, and Anko took notice and stood closer to her. Minutes before, turning the blade around, Naruto slammed the back edge of it into Fugaku, sending him crashing through a window, with such force that 4 other windows broke, 2 on each side. Some of the council were knocked out by the killing intent, others were watching with morbid fascination at how this boy could take down an Uchiha head, Fugaku no less. The Uchiha in the room couldn't believe what was happening. They were the only ones left, and this boy decides to attack their leader, the one who got them back to safety after someone kidnapped them and left them on an abandoned island for years. None could move. The Hokage couldn't do anything. His little Naruto just attacked the Uchiha head, albeit with reason. He didn't this killing intent. How is Naruto producing it? This is on par with the level when Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, at the battle in the Valley of the End. Naruto walked to the edge of the window and charged up chakra to his blade, pointing the tip he pulled on the metal hanging in the half circle. A loud crack reverberated the room and the blade was pushed up a bit by an invisible force. A bolt of pure chakra shot down where the body bounced and Naruto cursed. Lunging out the window, he landed under Fugaku and kicked up, leaned back, and did a backflip. Using too much momentum, he would have lost balance had he not done one. Crouching, he shot up intent on killing the man. Fugaku was lost. He didn't know this man, but he wants him dead. Trying to move against the extra forced gravity pushing down, he struggled to do hand signs. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Using enough chakra to take out the Hokage monument, he shot out a fireball, white hot. To everyone on the ground it looked like the sun, shielding their eyes enough to see. They all looked up, the Hokage in the window. Staring blankly, Naruto pulled his sword forward and charged up chakra into the blade. Instead of stopping the flow, he pulled the blade above his head and pulled the trigger, pulling the blade down to his feet before stopping the flow of chakra. Repeating this again perpendicular to the last, Naruto watches, unblinkingly, as the purple chakra cut the ball of fire, dissolving its power before it went out. Suddenly, for everyone below, with the absence of the bright light, they all went blind, having to have their eyes readjust to the normal light. Kurenai stared up at Naruto in awe. He stopped the fireball without breaking a sweat. Anko had similar thought. If he's that powerful. Glancing at Kurenai. Damn you again. Grinning, she watched Naruto still ascending into the body, unidentified but a human no less. Wah. What? What are you? Fugaku yelled down at the approaching man before he disappeared. I'm your worst nightmare, Uchiha. I'm the one who will take you off your throne, and I'm your experiment gone wrong. Naruto whispered into the Uchiha's ear. Eyes widening, Fugaku could do nothing as Naruto swung the back of the blade down again, sending him careening towards the ground in a blur, unseen by the untrained eye. Landing with a smoke cloud poof, all the Hyuga turned on their Byakugan to see better. Fugaku couldn't move. He lay, imprinted into the ground, cracks surrounding his body. He was sure he had a few broken bones at least, and some internal bleeding. Coughing up some blood, he turns on his Sharingan to see as the smoke cleared a bit. All he sees is a giant ball of chakra coming at him, only half the size of his fireball but big nonetheless. Slowly the ball got smaller, denser, the closer it got, until it was barely bigger than him. Resigned to his death, the Uchiha just watched. What he did not expect was the ball to suddenly expand where it was, feet above him, enough to still hit him. The chakra cleared the smoke, as intended, and there he sees Fugaku, in a crater made by the bullet, charging a purple element into the blade. It sparked like lightning, but the heat was more like fire. Soon the crackling was filling the air as Naruto dropped faster, taking to a dive, blade hanging behind him, leaving a trail of purple in his wake. Meet your fate, Uchiha. Naruto screamed as his eyes spun faster the angrier he got. Pulling the blade back, he turned the tip to the ground and jabbed it forward as he descended closer to the ground. Impaling the Uchiha on the tip, the wound didn't bleed, the heat cauterizing it. The heated lightning coursed through his body before the element stopped and Naruto landed feet away from the body. Back turned away, he stared over the sea of Shinobi at the clear sky. Kurenai looked down at Naruto's face and saw nothing. He was blank, no emotion. His eyes were filled with rage. She swore she saw the Shinigami himself in Naruto's eyes. Looking over at the body, she started to growl as the anger boiled up. Kurenai, what is it? Anko asked, looking over at her red-eyed friend. That Uchiha, he's the clan head. Anko nodded, not seeing where this was going. He was the one to put Naruto through so much pain. His clan was the one torturing him. Anko looked puzzled. She didn't know what her friend meant. Kurenai pieced it together. Her dream and his hate for the Uchiha, at least what she guessed. The ninja around were starting to grow weary of her, her killing intent raising slowly. So Uchiha, do you like your little experiment now? Naruto yelled before turning and morphed into a wolf, his first animal earned to him. The shinobi gathered all gasped as Naruto transformed. The council members looking out the windows watched in stunned silence as the boy's bloodline was revealed. Lunging, Naruto knew the Uchiha would live. They'd give him the best care. He'd let him live, for now. Grappling onto the Uchiha's leg, Naruto proceeded to tear and rip at skin and muscle, loving the sound of Fugaku's screams. Sasuke was frozen to place. His father, he was alive, Itachi didn't kill him. A lone tear rolled down his cheek. He was going to lose him and there was nothing he or apparently anyone else could do. Father. He mumbled. Father. Some turned to him. What are you all looking at? Someone stop him. Taking a few Anbu went in, throwing aside their orders to stay still. Naruto noticed this and quickly started to change forms. Taking on an animal that was once an experiment itself of Orochimaru's, he slowly got on his hind legs, they thickened. His chest and arms also thickening, his wolfen body growing upright. Mentally wincing, Naruto grabbed an Anbu by the head and threw him into another one. No serious damage, just getting them out of the way. I can't hold onto this form long, it's not a natural animal. Naruto grunted as he grabbed another Anbu and swung him around, catching two more Anbu and knocking them unconscious. Hitting the last one in the back of the neck, he dropped to the floor. Seeming to ripple, Naruto's body took on the of a Komodo dragon, taking to the Uchiha's wounds and biting down, letting the poisoned saliva run in his blood. Treatable, too bad though. Though before taking form of a medium three-tailed fox. Many in the crowd backed away or flinched seeing the fox, too much of a reminder of the Kyuubi. Anko's eyes widened and looked at her friend, whose eyes went blank when the fox was shown. She was no longer mad from what Anko could discern. Naruto didn't even notice the shinobi move, he was too focused on Fugaku, who was looking up at him with fear in his eyes. Sharingan be damned, fear can't hide. Grinning a feral grin, Naruto returned to himself and walked over to him, grabbing the handle of his sword. Come on Uchiha, I know you got more in you than this, right? Naruto brought his foot up and slammed it into Fugaku's face, crushing it, before it turned into a log and Fugaku was standing up feet away. See? Not too old. Grabbing his sword, Naruto gave a tug and pulled it out of the ground. Demon child, do you see what has become of you? I could help you, shut up. The shinobi in the crowd were focused on Fugaku and swung their head to Naruto. After what you did, I'm not going to let you help anything. I must thank you, Fugaku. Chuckling, Naruto saw the confusion on his face. I have no restrictions with my bloodline. Any animal, I don't have to study it for days or weeks like my mother did. No, I simple kill it, just one, and I can use it. I don't have time restrictions either, or a limit of how often I can use it. Fugaku smirked. Good, I see my plan has succeeded then. Now I can die. Naruto calmly stated and rushed Fugaku, blade raised. Fugaku couldn't move. He watched with blank eyes, not caring about this boy at all for what he did. Feet away from the man, Naruto saw the Uchiha goddess jump in the way as he started to swing. Cursing himself, he swung faster, cutting only the cheek of the Uchiha goddess, and with only inches to spare, gracefully spun to the right, towards the arm with his sword, pulling the sword along and sliding his hand up to the hilt, leaving a few inches of the handle left. Stopping his spin and momentum millimeters before hitting the goddess, arm outstretched past her head, he grinned. Staring at the man before her angrily, the goddess watched his lips turn up before hearing a low thud behind her. Slowly she followed his arm to the sword, and saw the handle sticking out a few inches, enough to hit her husband with. Looking down, she saw a red mark on his temple. Don't worry, he's not dead. Yet. Naruto stated coldly and pulled his arm back, dropping his sword as it puffed up in smoke before hitting the ground. Glaring back at the blonde boy, she pointed to her husband. What did he do to you? We just got her, and if you don't know, then I'm sorry he hid it from you. I just feel sad that you're with this man. Naruto interrupted and looked up at the Hokage. Hey, old man. Every shinobi looked at the boy and a few started to move towards him. Chuckling, Hiruzen looked down. Yes, Naruto. What is it? You should get him some help. I don't want him dead yet. And I'll be taking my seat on the council next meeting. Shaking a scroll up at him, Naruto says. Even got my stuff, the wanted, and the unwanted. Naruto grumbled the last bit, but everyone still heard him. Tsume looked out the window and grinned at the boy. Certainly is remarkable little pup, cute to boot. Grabbing her bag, she slung it over her shoulder and walked up to the Hokage. Yes, Tsume? He asked without looking. This is the report you wanted on the other clans and the findings of the Uchiha estate. She said, giving him the bag and staring at Naruto. Boy's cute, Hokage, same. Strong too, enough to give you a run for your money. She chuckled. Yay, he's taken Tsume, Yuhi Kurenai, I believe. Tisk tisk, too bad, he could be some real fun. Giving a toothy grin, she jumped out the window. Shinobi gathered watched with bated breath as Tsume jumped down and clapped Naruto on the shoulder. Nice job putting the bastard in his place, Naruto. Welcome to the council. Grinning down at the boy, she didn't see him react for a minute. Taking his eyes off Fugaku and the Uchiha goddess Makoto, he looked at the hand on his shoulder. Clawed. Skimming up the arm, he sees a feral face with a grin and markings of her clan on her face. Inuzuka-san. Naruto nodded his head. Thanks, glad to finally take my anger out on the bastard for what he did to me, he's still not dead yet. Too bad, really. Tsume looked at him seriously. Really? What exactly did he do? Naruto looked at her and chuckled for a second. I'll give you a small summary. Makoto, you might wanna listen up. This will be the best he did. Every shinobi in the area moved a little closer to hear him. Anko pulled Kurenai along, as she was just getting her bearings back. I guess I'll start from the somewhat beginning. Naruto sighed. You did want to hear about why I didn't like my mother too. This got Anko and Kurenai's attention, who after realizing Naruto was the Kyuubi's holder, had some things to talk to him about. I was living with my mom for a while, after I was born. On my 5th birthday, she said she'd take me out for ramen, she did. I was happy and she was smiling like a mother would for her son on his birthday. Suddenly she said she had to go do something and she left me alone, with enough money for a few more bowls. I ate, and decided to tell Tuki that I'd be back in a bit and went for a walk to the park. Naruto now noticed how all the shinobi were off the buildings and listening to his tale. Sighing, he continued anyway. Well, when I got there I saw all the other kids playing around, and tried to go play with them. All their parents pulled them away and told me to scram, picking up stones and throwing them at me. A few shinobi stiffened, while other shinobi narrowed their eyes. I ran away from them as fast as I could and got lost. I couldn't find Tuki's restaurant, or anything I recognized for that matter. After a few minutes wondering, I started to panic, thinking my mom was worrying about me, so I started to ask around to find Ichiraku's. I was only met with glares, fists or feet. Up in the window, the Hokage flinched slightly at that. Then when I finally recognized something and was walking to it, a kunai hit the ground at my feet. I looked up only to see the night sky, and people walking around like normal. When I tried to take a step, another kunai came down, closer to me this time. Soon they started shooting down at me and I could do nothing but run. What's going on? A blond boy thought as kunai rained from the heavens at him. Mom! Help me! Looking back, he saw nothing. Everything was a blur. He was moving so fast he didn't even know how long he had been running, or the buildings around him. Stopping to catch his breath, he leans against a tree for support. Taking his time, he quickly realizes his mistake. Suddenly dozens of kunai rain down, growing closer and closer, hitting the ground, tree, and finally one landed in his right lung. Choking, he rips it out and puts it away for later, just in case. Taking another second, one he'd regret, to take a breath to run, more kunai, from every direction. Some from above, some from left, or right. None straight on anymore. Out of them all Naruto manages to dodge some, getting only scrapes and cuts from them. Taking off he catches a glimpse of red in the wind. A single thread, moving as part of the wind itself, slowly reaching up he grabs it. Silky soft, and glinting red in the sun. Mommy. Looking up he couldn't see anything but the shine and glint of metal in the moonlight. Taking off and dodging all the projectiles, Naruto runs through the clan district. Running through the forest to try and find cover in the trees. First he hear barking, growing louder and louder. Running faster he jumps over a few bushes and saw 6 huge dogs in a kennel. All trying to tear the fence apart. Kuromaru. What's going on? Hey, shut up and tell me you guys. Naruto heard a voice yell and he split in a second, going the other way and into a nice clean forest. Buzzing was all around him, every type of bug, and some he's never seen, were all around him. Looking in a panic he sees one man in the forest, who is looking right at him. Without a word the man turned away, his coat covering everything but his glasses and hair. Naruto didn't know what was happened and took another quick turn, taking to an open field. A giant Fuma shuriken flew down at him and he jumped to get over it, only to see it curve back up to the sky and over the horizon in front of him. He was the one riling up Kuromaru and the others. Poor boy. Sume thought and squeezed his arm. So, he was the one in our forest, no harm no foul. Shibi thought silently and nodded to himself. Tripping over a wall in an attempt to get over it, he saw a few people staring at him, veins bulging on the edge of their eyes. What are you doing here? Talk now or die. Shaking like a leaf Naruto takes off faster than any of them could follow. They watched as he jumped the other side of the wall. After a shinobi got a couple strikes on him, he limped for a minute before taking off like before. Looking back, Naruto didn't see anything and slowed down a bit, taking a breather but not stopping, he learned once. Slowly he looked around to see where he was. The shadows themselves seemed to waver and dance like water. Taking a look down the forest he saw many glowing eyes staring back at him, the moon being reflected through them. Getting an uneasy feeling Naruto jumped out. Why is everything so creepy around here? I just want my mommy. Naruto screamed to himself as a few tears leaked down his cheeks. Tripping on a root on the last tree, Naruto rolled. Not wasting time he quickly rolled, jumping to his feet and making his way through the paved grounds and houses. Everything had red and white fans on it. First all that. Now these red orbs. What next? Kami, help me find my mommy. Running through the streets he heard a voice. Leave now. A hushed voice said. Spinning Naruto didn't see anything. There must be somewhere to hide. Now, you must leave, before anyone sees you, go. Taking another look, kunai out Naruto sees nothing and runs deeper into the clan's compound. Finding a shed he grabbed a dirty cloth and stared out, paranoid. Slowly drifting off he heard a faint voice. I told you it would be too easy. Fugaku. Mommy. Not having the strength to lift his head, Naruto passed out. Well, that would explain Yo. Kushina then. But what about Fugaku? Sume asked, her anger held inside. Kurenai was seething, holding in her anger towards the village and Kushina, along with the Uchiha. Her hair covered her face a bit as she looked down. A tear fell from her face and hit Anko's shoe. Deep in thought about how close she was to the Gaki, Anko barely noticed the drip of something on her shoe. Looking down she saw a wet spot and looked at Kurenai. Kur-chan? She asked gently. Shaking her head a bit Kurenai looked up, the tear streak blown in the wind. Yes Anko. The whites of her eyes are a bit pink. Anko thought. Come here Kur-chan. Anko grabbed her in a hug. Thanks Anko. This just pisses me off and shows how much he's been through. Sighing Kurenai moves away from Anko and smiles. Listen back to Naruto's story. Yay, that bastard Uchiha needs to get the worst possible treatment. My snakes. Anko grinned as a few snakes slithered around her arms. Nodding, Kurenai watches Naruto. His ear twitches and he looks over for a split second, hearing the snakes. Stiffening, Naruto smelled snakes and glances over as his ears twitch. Yay, what about my husband, him? You haven't said anything yet except how your mother chased you to us. Naruto could tell the Uchiha goddess was hiding something, her concern seemed faked. Well, waking up on a table to see Fugaku's face in his own, Naruto struggles. There's no use, demon. Those are reinforced chakra draining binds. You can't get out of them without me or someone else letting you. Why am I here? Naruto yelled. Oh, just a little test. You too. Start with the fluids now. He's awake, it will go through his system faster. The two Uchiha he pointed to nodded and grabbed a few syringes and roughly stuck Naruto with them. After so many injections, with seemingly no results, Fugaku ordered a few more clan members to cut the boy a few times and start putting in pills and acids along with a higher dose of the liquids of before. Screaming, Naruto could do nothing but yell for his mom and for help. Silly child, she won't be coming for you, she's the one who brought you here. Believe it or not, it's completely up to you. Fugaku chuckled as the boy started to cry. The screaming stopped and he stopped struggling, resigned to his fate. In a lone corner, undetected by Fugaku or the clansmen, Itachi hid, watching it all and shaking his head, disappearing into the darkness. Sasuke was shaking like a leaf. This wasn't who his father was, and this was what he was doing. Taking a new look on life, he thought maybe Itachi did the right thing. If the head was corrupted, so could everyone else, right? If it wasn't for Itachi saving me and letting me out, well, let's just say I don't know what could have happened. Naruto finished, leaving out much detail. And that's the overview. Many shinobi gasped as he finished. Some thought he deserved it. Others were on edge, wanting to kill the rest of the Uchiha right there. Up in the council room, everyone stared at the Uchihas there. For their sake, they hoped none of them knew of this. All the Uchiha were looking on like deer. How could their head do this? Now Makoto, do you understand? Nodding, oh yes, Makoto understood. She had suspicions before, but with the truth she didn't need to be with the scum anymore. Kicking Fugaku once in the ribs, she heard a few gasp in the crowd. One Anbu couldn't handle it and went to attack Fugaku. Makoto be damned. Just as he was about to strike through Makoto, Naruto grabbed the blade, bare-palmed and stopped it, leaving another cut on the Uchiha goddess' cheek, and a huge cut in Naruto's hand. If you heard or saw what had happened just now, Anbu-san, Makoto isn't on the same page as her husband is. Naruto said coldly, feeling the blood pool at his elbow and drip. Jerking his hand, the tanto snapped in half and he kicked the owner back into the crowd. Besides, Naruto started, staring at his hand covered in blood. If you heard me at all, Fugaku is mine. Turning to Makoto, he licks his thumb and rubs it over the two cuts, that after a second, sizzle and smoke lightly. Cleaning and closing the wounds. Looking back at his hand, he licks the wound and watches it sizzle. Letting his hand drop, he smiled to the Uchiha goddess and walked back to Sume. Well, that certainly was a surprise. Sume barked out between laughter. Old man. Those medics. Naruto yelled, to which the Hokage nodded and sent down his personal staff. After dragging away the unconscious Uchiha, Naruto looked up. The moon was starting to come up, meaning the sun was setting soon. Well, Sume, I must be going now, I have things to attend to. Nodding, Sume let him go. Damn, that boy is hot. Taking a sniff, she almost jumped. His pheromones are thick in the air. Walking towards her compound, she had things to talk about with Kuromaru. Naruto. The Uchiha matriarch called out, causing him to stop. Yes, Makoto-san. He asked, turning around. Thank you for explaining. I had my own thoughts, but without proof there was nothing you could do. It's fine. Grabbing him in a quick hug, the matriarch walked through the crowd after kicking Fugaku again. Sasuke ran out of the crowd and grappled her, screaming, "Mom!" and saying things like how he was glad she was alive. Hey Kurenai. Anko noticed her start to act funny when Makoto hugged Naruto. What's up? Nothing, Anko. She stared at Naruto as he walked away. Just thinking is all. Taking to the monument, Naruto sat on top of the fourth Hokage's head, the Yondaime. Getting up, he notices the blood on his arm still and shrugs, making a few enhanced clones, just 30. Come at me, I need some stress relief. Taking out his sword, and noticing none moved, he pointed it and shot one. Blood spurting from its shoulder as a clean hole was seen before blood oozed out of it. Come on, move it. Naruto yelled and the clones jumped into action. 3 came at him at a time, one going low and another coming with his sword, the third stood back and started doing hand signs. Jumping over the sweep kick and glancing his blade off the clone stabbed the one sliding under the real Naruto, a large gash across his arm. Naruto, on the way down, charged the heated lightning back into his blade, and cut off the clone's head that got cut under him. Dodging the blade again, he channeled chakra and shot out a blade of plasma at the clone, making the hand seals. Jumping out of the way, the clone finished and called out, "Tanuki's maw." The Hokage's monument seemed to open up, his jaws seemed to come open and clench down on a few clones. Naruto at the last second substituted with the one who called out the jutsu. 4 down. Stabbing at a clone that came at him, Naruto's plasma-charged blade cut through him like butter. Stopping the plasma, he flung the clone off the monument and shot 3 bullets down at him. Walking down a street with Anko by her side, Kurenai was thinking about Naruto. He had been through so much. She remembered the night that she went by the Uchiha compound, the very night he was taken. It saddened her that she couldn't do anything, or even knew about it at the time. Come on Kur-chan, let's go to your house and rest up, we still have those leftovers from breakfast. Kurenai stiffened for a second and grinned. Oh yay, next best thing to him, is his cooking. Let's go Anko, I'll heat it up. Suddenly a purple ball shot down and hit the ground in front of Anko, stopping the two in their tracks as they looked up. The sight greeting them was a bloody and battered Naruto getting hit by 2 other purple bullets, showering blood over the ground. Hitting the ground with a sickening crunch, the clone finally fell apart as the blood soaked the ground and the whole clone turned red before seeping into the dirt. Looking at Anko, who shrugged, Kurenai decided to leave him alone for now. It seemed he was taking out his aggression. Damn thing flew halfway across the village. Naruto noted, looking down the face of the cliff. Coming up behind him, another clone stabbed at him as one more slashed downwards. Naruto spun and put his blade up, side of the blade catching the point of the clones. He spun back, knocking the clone off balance, and slicing up, meeting the other clone's strike. A few seconds later and more clones joined in the fun of beating their master. To a viewer who looked on, Naruto seemed to be losing to himself. But to a critical eye, Naruto wasn't getting hit. On the contrary, his motions were fluid, even with the big blade. It was like a graceful dance through the clones, who seemed to be spurting blood almost non-stop as his blade swung. Taking a second to charge his bullet up, he stabbed a clone, and pulled the trigger. The resulting blast blew off the clone's back, a hole about a foot wide in the center of his back. 10 down. All the clones stood in a circle around him. Grinning, Naruto charged up his bullet again, and held the trigger down, spinning and letting the blade shoot a continuous stream of chakra. From the sky it looked like a whirlpool of purple chakra. The few clones that got caught were sliced up and burned by the chakra. Mom! Sasuke yelled once more as they got home. Grabbing onto her, he let tears stream down his face as she held him. Shish, Sasuke-kun, don't worry hun, mommy's back and you're alright. Makoto cooed to him. I heard from the council you were bent on revenge. That's not healthy, you're just going to get yourself killed. Live like a kid, Sasuke-kun. If you meet Itachi, if you wish you can fight him, but he really did the clan a favor. Sasuke nodded to his mom. His dream changed, no longer to kill Itachi, to help his mother and the rest of the clan become better than before. Don't turn into your father, sweetie, you're a good boy and you don't need to be doing anything that he did. Sasuke nodded again and offered to help her buy groceries, with a smile on his face. Sure. Let's go now. Makoto smiled back. 15 down. Naruto launched over a clone's blade and used its head as a stepping stone. Flipping in the air, he sliced a clone up and straightened out, stabbing his blade into another clone behind the first two, straight through its head and down its throat. Feet hitting the ground, without cleaning the blade, he spun and blocked a strike from another clone. By this time cuts and hole could be seen over his body, the clones getting lucky shots. A few clones in the back were shooting chakra bullets at him. Coating his blade in chakra, he deflected them into other clones. Cutting one bullet down the middle, he lunged forward as both halves exploded after a few seconds, sending the clones around him reeling. 18 down. Well, Hokage, it's agreed that Naruto will take his seat as clan head, and Makoto will take her seat as the new clan head for the Uchihas. Hiyashi said. As he had the most power, he was the council spokesman. Good. Now Fugaku will be detained until further notice. This meeting is dismissed. I have enough to do today. The Hokage grumbled with a smile on his face and watched everyone leave the room. Looking over at the Hokage monument, he smirked. Thank you, Naruto. Making a few clones, he set them to work on his paperwork and took to his bed for a nap. 24 down. Kicking a clone off the cliff, Naruto sliced up with his blade and pulled the trigger, sending a blade of chakra out that, once hit the clone, sent him up into the sky. Finishing a few hand seals, Naruto called out. Plasma Dragon. Purple lightning shot out and engulfed the clone. Sparks seemed to shoot out from the core as the dragon turned into a ball after hitting the clone, slowly growing smaller as the lightning raged around the ball of intense heat. Any blood that would have dripped to the village was zapped and evaporated, or dissolved in the heat of the dragon's core. Throwing the blade, it puffed in mid-air, and charging the remaining clones, Naruto jumped. Raging Kitsune. Naruto called as a large fox made of fire appeared from around him and charged the remaining 5 clones, tails whipping around and charring the ground. Taking a clone in its maw, the kitsune swallowed and all that fell out of the fire was bones, before they dissolved into blood. Tanuki's maw. The ground opened up and swallowed the kitsune whole, smoke coming up from the ground as it closed. Many villagers looked up at a scene on the Hokage monument, seeing a red flaming fox, that soon fell into the earth. Only to scare the villagers more, when all the Hokage's eyes seemed to smoke for a few minutes. Lining claws. Naruto yelled as his hands were enveloped in lightning that seemed to come to a point on every finger. Jumping at a clone and cutting through it, he turned and cut another set perpendicular to the last. 28 down. Panting heavily, Naruto flung himself at the remaining clones. As one took the hit, the other used his blade and slice into Naruto's back. Naruto grit his teeth and landed on his feet. Taking his chance, he turned into a large twin-tailed fox, then charged the 2 clones. One was stuck through on the fox's tail, the other was mauled and flung off the cliff. Taking the time to look at the last clone, he returned to normal and the clone hit the ground. Walking over, he looked down as the clone started to twitch. Not today. Naruto stomped on the clone's head as the blood spewed all over. The final clone popped in a bloody mess and sank into the earth. Gah, always such a mess with them. Naruto smiled to himself. Covered in blood from the clones, all his cuts were fizzling and healing themselves. Taking a walk down the streets of Konoha, he didn't bother to wash up. He figured to go to the hot springs after he ate. What's that smell? It's thick of blood. Sasuke, keep that to yourself. A feminine voice scolded him as they rounded the corner. Naruto stopped walking just before Makoto ran into him and dirtied her clothes, causing Makoto to yelp in surprise. Naruto. What happened? Makoto asked in a caring voice, which made Sasuke seethe next to her. Training, blood clones. No big deal, really. If you say so. I'd like to invite you to eat dinner with me and Sasuke here. You can take a bath before you eat. Makoto smiled and moved a bag around in her arms, full with food. Glancing at Sasuke, Naruto nodded. He seems less like his father. He might be good yet. I'd like that, thank you Makoto-san, Sasuke-san. Naruto nodded and made a clean clone to help carry the groceries. Why, thank you Naruto. Makoto said, leading the way to the compound as Sasuke pulled Naruto back. Just what are you trying to pull, loser? Sasuke asked with a sneer. Nothing. You don't seem like you'll turn out like your father now, so I have nothing against you, a clean slate if you will. Don't piss me off, and we'll be fine. Your choice from now on, you can either become my enemy, or get that stick out of your and be like a normal person. Naruto stared blankly at him before catching up to Makoto and following her to the springs. Sasuke stopped for a second and headed to the kitchen with the clone and set the groceries away. Here you go Naruto, take them clothes off and I'll wash them quick. Makoto said standing there. Not to be rude but can you at least turn around until I rinse the blood off myself and get in the spring? Naruto asked politely. Blushing Makoto turned around and folded her arms as the water came on. Hearing clothes drop into piles on the floor. Looking down she saw the pink bubbles of mixed blood and soap going down the drain. Shaking her head the pink seemed to dilute and disappear. Naruto finished washing and grabbed a towel. Sinking into the spring, he let it relax his muscles away and called out to Makoto. Alright, I'm in, you can grab them now, and thank you Makoto-san. Turning around Makoto grabbed his clothes. He rinsed them. She smiled. It's nothing Naruto, I'll call you when the food is ready. Seeing him nod she left and put his clothes in the wash. Sighing Naruto let out a deep breath and scooted down in the water, letting it soothe his pains away. Naruto closed his eyes and slipped his chin underwater, laying on a shallow rock poking out of the water. Mom, why did you invite him here? Sasuke asked. Well, he helped prove your father was as bad as I thought he was, and he seems like a nice person. Makoto answered as she stirred a stew. Alright. Sasuke, will you go tell our guest that the food is done, I need to set the table. Seeing her son nod she smiled and started taking out the dishes. Hey. Naruto, the food is ready, finish up fast. Sasuke yelled into the door, seemingly calmer than before. Alright, Sasuke-san, I'll be out in a few. Naruto said back as he sat up. After making sure he wasn't coming in Naruto stood up and stretched, making sure his towel stayed on. Getting up and grabbing another towel he dried off and touched a seal on his arm to open his scroll for other clothes. Grabbing some plain boxers, a replica of his other pair of pants, and a dark red shirt, which had a slightly high collar and sleeves to his elbows. He got dressed, the shirt hung loosely on his frame. Drying his hair he let it spike out like normal. Taking time to put the scroll back away he set out to open the door. Just as he was about to open the door Makoto appeared with some clothes and looked at him. Oh, you have some, that's good. Makoto smiled. I forgot to set some in here for you, my apologies. Waving it off Naruto responds. It's alright Makoto-san, I would have worn my own anyway. No offense, I just like them better. Seeing her nod he followed her to the kitchen. Sasuke was sitting quietly on one side of the table, Makoto took a seat next to him, and Naruto sat across from Sasuke. A bowl sat at each seat, with a smaller bowl filled with rice, and a plate with bread on it. Makoto filled up Sasuke's bowl and her own before passing it to Naruto, receiving a quiet, thanks, from Sasuke and a, thank you, from Naruto. Both waited for Makoto to start, who smiled and motioned for both to eat. Sasuke dug in, missing his mother's cooking, while Naruto ate at a normal pace, thoughts fluttering across his mind. Makoto-san, this is delicious, thank you. Makoto smiled and offered him more after Sasuke took his second bowl. Nodding, he let her refill his bowl. Before finishing his stew, he ate his rice and offered to get drinks, both wanting some juice and he wanted water himself. Grabbing cups, he filled them accordingly and handed everyone a glass, taking a drink of his own. Taking a piece of bread, he dunked it into the stew broth and bit into it. After finishing his meal, drink, and rinsing his dishes, Naruto sat at the table, politely waiting for the others to eat. The table was in silence, as everyone was thinking about something themselves. Ahem, Naruto, do you have a place to stay? Makoto asked between bites. No, I was going to get a hotel. I need to read my things from my parents and then I'll get my inheritance, which will include my clan house and land of my own. Well, how about you take Itachi's room then? Sasuke stared at her for a second before rinsing his bowl. If that is okay with both of you, then I would like that. Naruto noticed how Makoto was going to give Sasuke the stare all parents do. And I mean, he has to be okay with it, not you telling him to be. Makoto looked at him with surprise but nodded and both awaited Sasuke's answer. Taking his time with the dishes and finishing his juice, he thought it over. I guess it will be fine. Taking to the living room, he sat in a chair and studied a scroll. Makoto looked at her son, worry evident in her eye. Naruto saw this and sighed, walking into the living room and grabbing his shoulder. Let's go outside, Sasuke. Naruto said politely and pulled him up. Not thinking straight, he let Naruto lead him outside to the pond he practiced his jutsu at. Listen, we need you to lose that attitude, Sasuke. That kill Itachi, gain power, type of shit, it will only get you killed. Sasuke stared at him as his anger rose higher and higher with each passing word the blonde said. What do you, I wasn't finished, Uchiha. Cutting him off with authority, Naruto continued. Your mother is worried for your mental state, from the look on her face. Besides, to get stronger you have to have something to protect. It gives you a better will when facing danger, knowing that you can keep at least one thing safe from the darkness that is always around us, ninja. Sasuke was silent. He knew the blonde was right, but he couldn't get over what Itachi did. Give me the scroll. Naruto said, holding his hand out and looked at it when Sasuke gave it to him. Whistling a bit, Naruto looked up. Fire Dragon Jutsu. That's impressive. Trying to see how it works before trying it, smart. The key to this is to have the right fire manipulation and the right chakra. If you have the wrong chakra level, it could obliterate your lungs. Or turn out to be smoke, which will gag you. Naruto lectured and Sasuke nodded. Watch. Naruto went through the hand seals and put the right amount of chakra into it, sending the dragon into the lake. The amount of chakra can also differ its size, but you need an adequate amount of shape manipulation to make it change sizes. Try it with the amount it takes for 2 grand fireballs. Sasuke looked at him like he was crazy. Trust me. With how much chakra you've probably been using, you have nothing to lose. Nodding, Sasuke stood up and tried it. Gauging the amount, he did a grand fireball first, then tried the fire dragon. At first only smoke came out and he held back the gag, adding just a bit more chakra. Soon the dragon took shape and flew out into the forest. Jumping up, Naruto shouted, Water Dragon! Putting the fire out and looked at Sasuke. Well, I'd say good job, but you haven't shown if you'd change yet. So for now. Naruto clapped his back. Keep trying. Naruto said and walked inside. Sasuke looked at his back and lost his sneer. Just like Itachi. Taking a few steps, he dipped his feet in the water. Maybe Itachi didn't do anything wrong. Is there any chance he had to do it? Of course there is, but the odds. Not that great, but then again, testing his strength by killing them all. That doesn't make sense either. Sighing, Sasuke stood up and walked into the house to be greeted with his mother giving Naruto a hug, and him scratching the back of his head. Up in Itachi's room, he rummages through the drawers for anything of interest. Feeling a mental tug, he knew the clone dispelled and smiled at the hug, and the fact Sasuke didn't seem like a prick at the moment. Finding a little unmarked book, Naruto looks through it. 1 week to go. Well, I guess this isn't really a spur of the moment thingy, but the whole clan is corrupted and I have to take them out. Sasuke won't understand this. I'll do ir before he gets home from school. Hopefully I'll be done before he gets back. I'll have to start pretty early to beat him though, and without getting caught. That will be hgrder. What's this? Itachi was in the Anbu, he wouldn't leave this. Naruto's eyes widened. Unless he meant to, he said out loud. Skimming the next few pages, he looks for anything of interest. He noted a few letters out of place just like in the first message. Noticing how some letters when drawn look like others the way he did it, while others were just misspelled. Grabbing a brush, some ink, and paper, Naruto got to work. After the first page he came up with, "If you were reading." Naruto turned the page and took to reading the page, finding the next one was just as easy as the first when actually looking it read. This there is a soft. Going on to the next page. In my room under tea. Sighing, Naruto cracked his neck and turned the page. He bed the floor bow. Turning the page once more. Arts can be removed. Once again. Open it and follow. Turning to the final page, Naruto sets out to finish the puzzle. The instructions. Okay, so as a whole. If you are reading this, there is a safe in my room under the bed. The floorboards can be removed. Open it and follow the instructions. Well. Naruto moved the bed and removed the floorboards, which indeed came up with a tug. Grabbing the safe, he found he couldn't open it. Turning the last page over, he saw a few numbers. Taking the chance, he turned the dial a few times and the safe popped open. Now let's see. Naruto read the instructions and his eyes became wide. To whom it may concern. Yes, the diary was blatantly obvious, but no one looks through my stuff. If you did, then I'm either gone already or you have killed me. Either way you must do as this is told, if and only if I am alive. Go to the Hokage. Tell him the code. The weasel dances in the shadows of the leaf, becoming dark when the leaf is brightest. He will know what to do, what to show you. Before you do that, put a bit of your blood on the door knob before leaving. It will lock the door and drop a scroll onto the bed. After getting the scroll from the Hokage, come back and put your blood on the outside knob. Grab the scroll and follow those instructions. I bid you farewell. Itachi Uchiha. Eyes wide, he goes downstairs, putting the scroll away and sliding everything into place. Coming down to a scene of Sasuke and Makoto both reading. Naruto sits down in a vacant chair across from Makoto. Makoto-san, may I speak to you upstairs, alone, for a minute? Naruto asks quietly, gaining both Uchiha's attention. Certainly Naruto. Sasuke, stay down here. Getting a nod from her son, she lets Naruto lead the way. Put up a privacy seal, please. Naruto asked and saw the room glow. Thank you. Now, did Itachi ever give you hints of something? The massacre. Anything at all? Was he acting weird before he did it? Why are you asking me this, Naruto? Makoto said with an edge to her voice. I'm sorry, Makoto-san, but it's important to what I have found. Please answer the question. Makoto sighed. No, he wasn't. He was acting normal like always. Not talking, fighting with his father, ignoring Sasuke. Everything was normal. Naruto nodded and took out the journal, handing it to Makoto. I found this while looking in a drawer, read over it. Naruto watched as she read all 7 pages. Yes. What's this have to do with it? He was preparing himself for it and saying how the clan was corrupted, how he wanted to test his power, just like was reported. Makoto said wearily. Yes, now read it over. Naruto emphasized read to her. Taking a look at each word, she noticed a few mistakes. Itachi was great with spelling and grammar, why would he make these mistakes? That's what I thought. He was a good ninja and a good learner, why make mistakes? Simple ones an academy student could fix. He wanted to. I pieced them together and got this. Handing it to the Uchiha matriarch, he let her read it. I opened the safe, and it told me to go to the Hokage. This room will be locked tomorrow. Don't try to open it and keep Sasuke away for the day. I'm doing as Itachi asked, for his sake at least. Makoto nodded and stood up, stretching. Well, good night, Naruto. She smiled. Good night, Makoto-san. Naruto said as he closed the door after her and laid down to rest. Kicking her feet up and reading a novel off her friend's shelf, she laid in the couch that the blonde had the night before. She noticed how it smelled of nature still. Kur-chan. Anko called as her friend came out into the living room. Yay, Anko. This book ain't bad, any more of the dango that Rut made left. Looking over her book, she saw Kurenai shake her head. You ate it all, Anko. What's up with you? All your sentences are clipped. Anko set her book down. It's Naruto, just thinking about him, I guess. He isn't coming here for the night, is he? She asked, staring at Anko. Doubt it, it's late and he hasn't come, why come now? Well, his Kekkei Genkei was revealed today. I wonder what the council will do about this. Considering he's a clan head too. Probably gonna make him the brains out of a few chicks before he can do any missions. Kurenai made a gagging sound at that. I don't think he'd let the council do that, though they'd try for sure. Anko noted her friend's attitude. Kurenai. Don't be like that, he truly has feelings for you, he wouldn't go and hurt you by doing something like that. Yay. Well, maybe, I don't know, Anko. Setting her book down, Anko sat up. Kurenai. Knock it off, that boy likes you. Hell, it's more than that, and you're damn lucky to have someone like that. I'd give anything for something like what you have. Anko let that slip but didn't show any mind to it. Yay, I guess you're right, Anko, thanks. Maybe I can help you find something like that. Kurenai grinned. Tomorrow I'm going to take you window shopping for guys. Not like there will be anything I like. Even if there was, it's not like I'd be in a relationship with them. It wouldn't last, they'll end it. Oh, Anko, don't be like that. There's someone who you must be crushing on, and someone who won't be like that to you. Yay, well, that's not an option now, is it, Kur-chan? Anko thought sadly but grinned at her friend. Yay, if you think so, then let's go shopping. Anko. I know you, what is it that's bothering you? It's nothing, Kurenai. So what do you think about Naruto's condition? Anko asked about him being a Jinchuriki, trying to change the subject. Well, I guess nothing of it, it doesn't bother me and doesn't change my feelings for him. Kurenai thought out loud. That's good. Then you won't care about the Kyuubi, the brat was worried about that. Kurenai looked at her oddly. Whatcha mean he was worried about it? Well, he was cause of how everyone else treated him for it. Not that it's noticeable right now, but before, well, you heard the story, everyone in the village did. I'm sure after that it just got worse for him. But having me as your friend, it kinda reassured him that you wouldn't care much about it. Then again, maybe that's why he isn't here right now, he's worried about that. Kurenai thought to herself about it, finding that she really wasn't bothered by the fact her had the Kyuubi inside him. After all, he wasn't the Kyuubi, so it's fine. Kurenai smiled at her friend and hugged her. Thanks, Anko. Anko smiled. So long as my friend is happy, then I'll be happy, she thought to herself, knowing Kurenai was her only friend in the village as of yet. Let's head to bed, Anko. It's been a long day for everyone. You sure I should sleep there, your new boyfriend, but take offense. Grinning, she followed Kurenai. He sure didn't seem to care much before. Kurenai remarked smartly. Or didn't want to piss you off. Anko snickered as Kurenai undressed to her mess top and shorts. Taking the chance, she took off her coat and skirt, leaving her in only her fishnet bodysuit. You know, that doesn't cover anything, Anko. And, was her reply before bouncing into bed with Kurenai, snuggling into her chest and sound asleep in seconds. Sighing, Kurenai looked down at her friend and ran a few fingers through her hair. Naruto. I won't let you go just cause of what happened today. She smiled to herself and fingered her necklace while falling into unconsciousness. Waking up early, Naruto told Makoto he'd be back in a bit for breakfast, he had an errand to run. Taking off early, he slid into Kurenai's window. Making some dango and food quickly, he stowed it all in the oven, to keep it warm, and left a note for Kurenai. Anko sat in the corner watching him the whole time until he left. Too much of a rush to notice I slid out here? Anko asked as she slid back into bed with Kurenai. Smiling softly for her friend, Anko let a single tear fall from her eye. Makoto-san. I'm back for breakfast. Naruto called out. Sasuke came and opened the door. He had a slight smile on. Letting Naruto in for breakfast, and taking his seat by his mother. Glad you could make it, Naruto. Take what you want, orange juice in the fridge. Makoto smiled warmly and took to eating her food. So, Naruto. Sasuke asked to break the silence that had been going on for a few minutes now. Seeing him look up, Sasuke continued. What did you have to go do so early? Giving him a raised eyebrow to say. Since when did you care? Swallowing his food. Well, I had to break into someone's house and make them breakfast before they woke up. That's all. Naruto smiled and finished eating, taking a drink of orange juice. Ah, that's sweet of him. Makoto thought. When will you be leaving for the Hokage, Naruto? Glancing over at Makoto, he shrugged. I guess around noon. Until then I'm going to train if it's alright with you, Makoto-san. Getting a nod of confirmation, Naruto headed to the laundry room and changed into his normal clothes, sealing the others up, and taking off outside to train, on top of the pond, with 500 other clones. Sasuke watched on as Naruto trained for the next hour or so. He was amazed that Naruto could make so many clones and still have enough energy to fight and win against them all. Makoto watched in fascination while making some. When Naruto was finished, Sasuke sat next to him and Makoto brought out some, deciding to sit on the dock and dip her feet with the boys. Naruto, did you already lock the door? Makoto asked as she leaned back in her tank top. It was hot out after all. This is pretty good. Smiling, Makoto thanked him. I should be going to see the old man soon. I'll be back in a bit, Makoto-san. Sasuke. Naruto hopped up. I'll be taking the cup. Grinning, Naruto refilled it. I'll bring it back though, no worries. Be careful, Naruto. Makoto said as he left the compound. Naruto waved back and was on his way. Just waking up, Kurenai and Anko head into the kitchen. What smells so good? Kurenai asked. Beats me. Anko said, making her way to the oven and pulled out the food Naruto left them. Anko. Did you make that? Kurenai asked wearily. No. Anko said and pointed to a piece of paper while taking a bite of dango and moaning. Oh. Naruto broke in and made it. Okay then. Kurenai said and giggled while taking her food. He can be so sweet. Anko grunted in agreement and picked off some food. A knock came from the door and a muffled, enter, was replied. Walking into the room, Naruto looked around for any company. Hey old man. Company. Not until you. What can I do for you, my boy? The Hokage asked, letting his clones do the paperwork and sitting on the couch. Well, old man, about that. The weasel dances in the shadows of the leaf, becoming dark when the leaf is brightest. The Hokage sat bolt upright and nodded, creating a soundproof room. So you found Itachi's journal. He told me he left it for someone. Apparently nobody went through his room well enough. Getting up, he grabbed a scroll. This is something he told me to give to the one who found his note. I already know what it is. But I'm not sure this should get out in public knowledge. That's fine, old man. I just need it to finish this puzzle. Thanks Oji-san. Naruto said, hugging the old man tight. You're welcome, Naruto. The Hokage chuckled a bit and told him to get going. I'll see you around, old man. Naruto waved and jumped out the window. Destination, Uchiha compound. Getting into Itachi's room, he locked the door behind him and sat on the bed. Opening the scroll, it read the following. You have come far, whoever you are, and I give you congratulations for that. If you don't already know, the reason I killed my clan was because they were corrupted. They were going to try and overthrow the Hokage. I was ordered to take them out. I could only spare Sasuke. Though I think some others got out alive also. I became a missing nin to accommodate the role of killing them all off. It was planned perfectly. I joined the Akatsuki as a spy. Jiraiya is the leader of the spy network, and I will only answer to him, and now you. Naruto. Yes, I knew you would be the one to find this. You would come back and try to pilfer anything of value. I am your only lead to the inner workings of the Akatsuki. I wish to come back at some point and be with my family again, if those are the ones to get away. I know you are the one who can help me with this. Thank you for coming this far. Grab the scroll on the bed and follow those instructions. Itachi Uchiha. Well, he never was a bad guy, nay. Grinning, Naruto grabbed the scroll and opened it. What's up with all the damn scrolls? Naruto. This doesn't include much instructions. Just keep this with you at all times. The seal, when applied chakra, will make a shadow clone of me, and since you're making it, no one will sense my chakra spike. The memories will return to me after the clone is gone, just like a normal one. Call a clone as soon as you can, but for the first time make sure you're outside. Anything further, just talk to my clone. Itachi Uchiha. Since the reviews stopped coming at such a rapid pace so fast the site couldn't even register them, I can finally post this chapter up with the votes. Now I won't put the number, just the order from highest to lowest. A colon between them means they're equal. This will make sure no one votes on the sole reason of how close one is or isn't to winning. By the way, if you voted once, don't vote again. It won't be counted. If you're going to review and you already voted, make a review, flame, or say how good it is to you. As long as it's a review, maybe I can work on something you guys don't like. Naruto. Sasuke. Get in here for lunch. Makoto yelled throughout the house. Glancing at Itachi's clock, Naruto wondered how long he was looking at the intricacy of the seal. Must have had Jiraiya help him with it. Chuckling to himself, he closes the scroll up and puts it in his pouch. Getting into the kitchen, he sees Sasuke walking in from the dojo with a smile on his face. Setting the table, Makoto made a simple lunch, including ramen, rice balls and some seasoned pork. Dig in, you two. She smiles at them. We have to go soon to the council, Sasuke, regarding the Uchiha who are back in Konoha finally. Sasuke stopped eating and looked up at her as if he totally forgot about the world around him for a while before nodding and going back to his food. You're welcome to come with Naruto, unless you have plans of your own in mind. Thinking it over a bit, he figured he did need to talk to the old man and the council at some point anyway. Might as well, it might help get some things of my own out of the way. Taking another rice ball, he devours a bite out of it before continuing. And make things run along smoother than they would if I waited. Nodding, Makoto smiles at him with a few thoughts in mind to bring up to the Hokage and the council members when the meeting comes. I must say, Makoto, your cooking is amazing. These rice balls are delicious and the ramen, well, compared to Ichiraku's you can't win, but this comes in a very close second. Grinning in his mother's praise, Sasuke finishes up his bowl and opts to take his and Naruto's dishes to the sink, getting a polite, thank you, from the blonde. His mother seems to have a real effect on him, he's changed so much in the course of only a night. Similar thoughts were going through both the Uchiha's heads, the smaller of the two gaining a genuine smile when looking at the matriarch. After both dressed, Anko suggested Kurenai and herself go for a nice stroll around the park, completely forgetting about Kurenai's window shopping. Sitting on a bench and just relaxing, Anko sighs contentedly as the rays warm her skin. See anything you like. Hearing her friend's voice, she opens her eyes and glances at her. What do you mean, Kur-chan? Grinning at her friend's memory, she crosses her arms and looks around at all the people walking through the park, shinobi and civilians alike. If you remember, we're going window shopping for you today. Smirking at her friend's reaction, she continues. Oh come on, it shouldn't be too much of a shocker, I mean really. There's lots of guys out here, you have to be interested in someone in the village, right? Oh, if only you knew. Anko mentally sighed but grinned at her friend to cover it up. Well then, Kur-chan, show me around and let's see. Hours passed and they bumped into a few people that flirted with Kurenai. Some that were disgusted by even being in the same area as Anko. Some that seemed to want Anko but, for all the wrong reasons. And there were few that seemed to genuinely want Anko, but none were nearly her type. Sighing heavily, Kurenai turned to her best friend. Anko. I don't think we're looking in the right part of the village. No need to look, Kur-chan. Nodding, Anko plops down with her friend. Maybe another time then. Smiling over the slight pang of her heart, Anko grabs onto a kunai in her pocket and starts playing with it, waiting for what's to come next. Oh come now, what do you mean, Anko? Just going to give up like that? Grabbing the kunai when her friend tossed it in the air, she rests it in her hand. Don't you think you're being a little hard on yourself? Kurenai, I've been looking for someone, anyone, for the past few years. I haven't met or seen anyone that catches my interest and kept it. Anko resigns in a voice that Kurenai knows all too well. That's a lie. She says, staring blatantly into the purple eyes of her friend. Shocked slightly, Anko stares back and fumbles with the words in her mind. Hesitating is proving it more of a lie, you know. Anko sighs and nods. Then what is it, Anko? It's not something I'd rather talk about. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to open up to you like always, huh? Giving off an awkward smile to her friend, Anko sees Kurenai nod. Bracing herself to be berated or scorned for this, Anko takes a breath. Well, I suppose in short, I'm jealous of you, Kurenai. Blinking a few times in shock, Kurenai backs away slowly and repositions herself to face Anko in the grass. What do you mean, Anko? Why are you jealous of me? Look at you, Kurenai. Taking a slow breath, Anko continues. You finally found someone worth your time, after all these guys flirt with you and ask you out. Yes, I know, they all meant nothing, simply cause they all just wanted to you. But you still got attention, and now, you have something worth all those other that tried to use you as a toy. I haven't even been flirted with by anyone, other than a joke really. Growling slightly, she continues. Orochimaru. Choking on the name itself. Messed a lot up for me. I haven't been able to have that real feeling of a relationship or even dates really. I'm really happy for you, don't think I'm not, I'm just put off by the whole thing. Finally looking back into Kurenai's eyes after avoiding them the whole time she was talking, she waits for her reaction. Does she have a crush on Naruto? Kurenai blinks as she thinks this but keeps a crucial eye on Anko as thoughts go through her head. I don't doubt it, but, she mentally trails off with a sigh. Well, find the one you're interested in, Anko, smiling softly to her best friend. No worries, it'll just take some time. Anko blinks and wonders what she means by that, but decides not to push it since they aren't going to window shop anymore. Come on, Anko, let's get you some dango. Smiling when her friend cheers for dango, they head out. Makoto had gathered all the Uchiha that came back to the village and headed out to the Hokage's tower with Naruto and Sasuke in tow as well. The trip itself was mostly silent, tensed from all the looks at Naruto, and from what they were going to the Hokage's tower to talk about. None of the group knew about what Fugaku did, none wanted to get any more involved with it now than they had to. The uneasy feeling was lost at the head of the group. Simply, a relaxed air filled the three leading them. Makoto smiled back at her son and the family that survived. She also took the time to look Naruto over. With what she had in plan, she would be happy, and hoped he would be happy with it all as well. Everything will work out perfectly. Smiling to herself and the plan she had, they continued the walk in the silence. Come in. Putting down some paperwork, the Hokage smiles seeing Naruto, before looking at the rest of the group that walked in. Ah, Uchihas. First, since the last time you were here wasn't a great welcome, I'd like to welcome you all back to Konoha. Sarutobi smiled when the group relaxed their shoulders. Looking back at Naruto, his smile softens more. And welcome to you too, Naruto. What do I owe the pleasure to? Sitting back and relaxing in his chair, he waits. The Uchiha seemed to all glance at him, wondering why he respected this child so much, but none could dispute it. Or cared to, for that matter. Looking at Makoto, Naruto started off. Well, first I came with Makoto-san since she invited me. Looking back at the Hokage, he continued. And I have some things I need to work out with you as well, so I figured, why not take two birds with one stone? He smiled softly at the old man behind the chair. Well, we have to go into the council rooms for the Uchiha, would you like to join us? Seeing as you do have a seat there now. You aren't going to be notified to come until you are stable, mind you, but you still have say in all that goes on as well. Ushering the group into the other room where all the clan heads and the civilian council resided, he watched Naruto nod and find his seat. The room suddenly got quiet as they watched Naruto take a seat on the council, and the Uchiha just stood by the Hokage. Everyone. The Hokage started off. I would like to formally welcome the Uchiha back into Konoha. Noticing all the nods and smiles from the council and a few cheers from the civilians, which made the shinobi roll their eyes slightly, he continued. I would also like to welcome back the Namikaze clan. For the most part, smiles went all around. Some civilians glared, but were shot down by the clan heads themselves. Naruto nodded to the shinobi and turned back to the old man as he continued. For now, I would like to inquire where you have all been. He said, glancing at the Uchiha. Makoto took the step forward, as there were many shinobi, but Makoto decided to stand out for them all. Hokage-sama, we've been on an island that seemingly floated the oceans around the elemental nations. We found out it was actually a giant tortoise after a while. Many of the shinobi nodded, knowing of the giant amphibian. We don't remember how we got there. Even Fugaku doesn't know. We were all knocked unconscious and seemingly sealed into a stasis scroll. When we awoke, we were all placed in homes upon the tortoise. The Hokage puffed on his pipe and looked at Naruto of all the people in the room. And, I would like to inquire with all of you Uchiha, how many of you knew of the corruption? How many of you knew what Fugaku was doing to young Naruto at the time? Looking up shocked, Naruto wonders what the Hokage was getting at as his fists clenched slightly. Which didn't go unnoticed by the council. Makoto seemed to speak for the group again. We, as in none of us, knew about what was happening to Naruto-kun at the time, she said somberly, hanging her head. None of us were ever informed of it until yesterday. Looking back up at the Hokage, she put on a grim smile. Just as well, none of us were in on the corruption or knew about it. Until we were all on the island and Fugaku let us all know. Gripping her fists a bit, she relaxed. I had my suspicions of him before, but no proof. With the proof he gave us at the time, we all shunned him. He had no place among us, but he kept trying to repent for it. Eventually we gave him a place back with us, as he was the one to start the organization to get us back to the mainland. Staring at them with a critical eye, the Hokage nods slightly, seeing truth in her words and no deception in the group's eyes. Naruto, his eyes morphed to that of a tiger once again, stared intently at the group. Which seemed to unnerve many in the group until his eyes changed back and he nodded to himself as well, relaxing the room. If I may, Hokage-sama. Getting a nod, Makoto continued. I will be taking the head of the clan, if that is all right with the rest of the Uchiha. I may not be a shinobi anymore, but I still know how the clan works, I know how to keep them in line. Nodding, the Hokage smiled at Makoto and waved his arm out to the seat saved for the Uchiha. The rest of the Uchiha stood off to the side, seemingly out of the way. I will lend a large stipend to the Uchiha for food and clothes and the such. We will your skills and place you back into the Shinobi Corp accordingly. Getting smiles, the Hokage feels everything is finished with the Uchihas for now, having to wait until they settle in for more changes to come up. Seeing Makoto wanting to speak, he called out to her. Well, Hokage-sama, since I am head, it's not a problem now. But I would like to suggest a proposition with the Namikaze clan. Feeling Naruto's glance on her, she continues with a smile. One of living arrangements. Smiling wider as she sees Naruto's perplexed look. If that's fine with my clansmen, I would like to convert a portion of the Uchiha complex into Naruto's own. Seeing the Uchiha nod skeptically, she leads on. I realize he has a home of his own, with the Yondaime's house and all, but I inquire this for the fact that it would be a nice change. Feeling everyone's questioning glances, she sits taller, without the looks getting to her. Well, seeing as he has a hate for Uchihas and the critical eye he keeps on everyone like a hawk. Glancing over at Naruto quickly. It would seem beneficial for everyone if he was able to keep that eye on our group for now. In case anything comes up again like last time. Also, Sasuke seems to have taken a strange kinship with him. Glancing at her son, she sees him scoff before nodding slightly. Naruto couldn't find any words to say, his seemingly hated enemy was giving him living space. Smiling softly, he seems to let go of a small portion of his grudge against them. If they can prove they didn't have any part in it, then I can forgive them. For now, indifference works. Well now, that would be up to young Naruto, but I approve of it. It would be nice for both parties involved, I believe. Watching Naruto's reaction, along with Makoto, they see him nod slightly. If that is all, Makoto nodded. Then Naruto, what was it you wanted to discuss? Sitting up a bit straighter, he glanced around. Well, my home was one thing. My shinobi career another. I feel as if I'm going to stay here, then I might as well get settled into my career that I belong into, right? As I said, I know I'm not as weak as a genin, by far. But you'd like to put me on genin team for now, until the Chunin exams, I'd be fine with that. Nodding, Sarutobi remarks he'll look into that after this meeting, and the council barely remarks, many shocked from the last day's events still. Also, I know what's going to be forced upon me. Seeing the Hokage's eyes turn to confusion for a split second, he continues even after the Hokage seemingly caught onto it. I'm not getting into the CRA. He said sternly. A few members of the council began to open their mouths, but he cut them off. I'm not going to go around a bunch of women, simply to make my clan grow again. None of you can change that, I'll tell you that right now. There is no offer you can make, or punishment you can give that will make me do that. If I'm going to get with someone, I'm going to do it 'cause I wanted to, and 'cause I fell for them. Some of the women in the council room felt an immense amount of respect for him at this point. Most would want the CRA just to get another person to have with. Furthermore, I'm not going to take multiple wives either. Unless by chance something comes up and it simply happens. Otherwise, I'm not going to look after I find the one I desire. Stopping to look around, he sits tall, a commanding aura vibrating from his body, and none seemed to question him on this at all. Smirking, Sarutobi nods. Just like your father, and completely understandable, Naruto-kun. No one will force you to, and no one will suggest it. He said, glaring out around the room, and they all nodded as one unit. Is that all right now, Naruto? Getting a nod in response, and seeing that the rest of the council simply wanted to leave and get home, he dismissed them all and stood himself. I'm glad to see you're staying, Naruto. Do an old man proud, will you? Smiling at the old man, Naruto nods and sets out to go find Kurenai. He just wanted to relax for a bit, even though he didn't think everything would go over so well. He expected much more opposition from the council. After telling Makoto of his plans, he heads out. With a reminder to stop back at his home whenever he wanted, and that Itachi's room is his own for now. After taking Anko out for the dango, the two head around to stores to look around. Kurenai wanting to find anything for Naruto, along with some things for her home. Idly, Kurenai was wondering if she should get some things for around the house for Naruto. A simple clothes rack, or blankets, pillows, something in case she got him to stay with her. Smiling to herself, she shook her head. He may not have a place to go, but she shouldn't get ahead of herself, she just couldn't seem to help it though. Anko, seeing her friend zone out while shopping, smiled and kept looking around for herself, spying a few things she liked. Taking her time to check the items out, she shook her head and put them back. Not too much time had passed after they entered the store before they left and went to another window shopping or finding some things they may like. The latter never really showing up. Kurenai didn't find anything unique that she would think Naruto would like either. Sighing, they both nodded to each other and simply started to head back to Kurenai's home, which was always partially Anko's as well since she hated to be in her own apartment. Seeing some passing genin on their way, Kurenai waves and smiles to them, Anko simply staring after them. Before long, Anko spotted a rather large feline walking the streets, the civilians giving it more than enough room to walk. Looking at Kurenai, then back and forth between her and the feline, she wondered how her friend didn't see the cat. Poking Kurenai, who glanced over at her, she childishly pointed to the feline. "Kur-chan. Can I pet him?" Kurenai's reaction, first, was of confusion and then she giggled and started to laugh, before they both made their way to over. The cat was the same that was in Wave, a giant, white and black striped, tiger. Unknown to them, the cat had spotted them long ago but was just out on a leisurely stroll around the village. Walking up, Anko did what most would find one of the stupidest things ever. She glomped it. Simple and straightforward. At first everything was calm, suddenly Anko just flew past Kurenai and tackled the giant tiger. Many civilians backed away from the animal, thinking it wild and would attack. Kurenai walked up to her friend and the cat and giggled while sitting on the ground, in the crescent of his paws, next to Anko and started to rub behind Naruto's ears. Anko grinned and started to stroke his back as well. Slowly a rumbling formed and people nearby could hear a soft purring coming from the giant cat. Spectators watched almost in awe at the two kunoichi. Kurenai grinned down at Naruto. "Kuro, why are you out here all by yourself?" Seeing a glint in Naruto's eye, her smirk grew some more. Anko seemingly froze, as a small smile began to spring from her lips and she looked down at Naruto. Seeing this, the cat nodded lightly, telling her to ask the question. Her smile seemed to grow exponentially as he nodded. "Kur-chan, Naruto, would it be okay if I rode you back to Kur-chan's?" Kurenai blinked and looked at Naruto and saw him raise a tiger's eyebrow. Seeing him slowly get up, and Kurenai looked at him carefully. After some though, Naruto leant down and Anko squealed in joy and gently climbed on his back. Before he stood back tall, he pawed at Kurenai and nodded his head. Kurenai looked at him with a bit of worry before she saw him nod and silently got on his back in front of Anko, who wrapped his arms around her stomach. Naruto noticed and kept the thought in the back of his mind as Anko got extensively comfy on Kurenai's back and shoulder. Feeling as they both apply a bit of chakra to stick to his back, Naruto leaps up onto a roof before bounding across the city to Kurenai's home. As they flew through the air at a relaxed pace, Naruto could hear the giggles of the women on his back and couldn't help but smile. "Kurenai-chan is enjoying herself, that's good." He trailed off and felt himself relax some, seeing as she did the same. Anko-san seems rather relaxed as well. He duly noted as he took a semi-longer route, slowing down a tad bit and letting them enjoy themselves like they should. Finally settling down in front of Kurenai's home, he notices a guy smoking a cigarette, Asuma if he remembers the name right. Above him he heard Kurenai groan and Anko seemed to hiss as the air left her lungs. If he had seen Asuma first, Naruto surely would have kept jumping instead of landing. Sighing and taking the step off the elegant animal, Kurenai gets out of Anko's grasp and scratches the tiger's ears absent-mindedly as she watched her friend remove herself from Naruto's back. Asuma chuckled to himself. What? First a panther, now a white tiger. Going to start a zoo for exotic animals anytime soon. Kurenai. Giving another chuckle to himself, he looks over towards Anko. Let alone allowing her, friend, hold her so tightly. He thought, purely jealous of Anko for the contact she had. Sending a spark in her glare that made Asuma second guess himself for a second, she replied in a tone telling him to be wary of himself. Not like it should matter to you, Asuma. And would you ever think that maybe I have summons? Maybe I just have luck that most don't have. Shaking her head as he noticed the glare he sent towards Anko, and she knew what he thought as well. Resting her hand on Naruto's head as he sat on the ground next to her and between her and her friend, she continued, not letting Asuma open his mouth. Why are you here, Asuma? I don't see any reason for you to be sitting outside my home. Giving a minuscule smirk, Asuma answers. Well, I was hoping to catch you alone. Kurenai stiffened slightly at this, as did Naruto, who stood more alert on his haunches. I thought we could talk some things through. You never really gave me a chance or a good date. He had a certain look on his face that none could place. Almost as if saying I never had a chance. And I told you when you first asked me that I wasn't looking and things wouldn't last, Asuma. She said sternly as Anko relaxed and sat next to Naruto, running her fingers through his exquisite coat. I can't say I remember that, Kurenai. He said sternly, taking a step forward away from Kurenai's home. To which, the first response was the tiger taking a more coiled position. Noticed by all the shinobi in front of Kurenai's home. Keeping a crucial eye on the oversized feline, Asuma stood strong. Kurenai, I'd like to ask you on another date. He said, a small bit of hesitation before letting the words drip from his lips. With bare a thought, Kurenai responded. I'd have to decline, Asuma. I'm seeing someone that I'd rather stay with. He's done nothing but catch my interest and keep me interested, along with being nothing but sweet. Recoiling from how fast the reply was, Asuma blared out. What? I thought you said you didn't want to see anyone, that you weren't looking. Kurenai nods. I wasn't looking. And I didn't want to see anyone. But this man has caught my interest and kept it, time and again. Smiling to herself, she scratches Naruto's ears more. And I'm glad he caught my eye, and I'm glad he made the impression. Asuma seemed to recoil a bit more and looked at her, a look that showed he was beyond bewildered, and not just a little pissed about it. Resolving himself, he took a breath and cooled off, taking the shinobi way to the situation. All right, Kurenai. I understand. He said half-heartedly with another sigh. I'll stop bothering you with dates. Needless to say, this caused all of the present beings to blink a few times and repeat what he said in their heads. I'll respect your choices, Kurenai. Nodding respectfully, he turned from her and trekked towards a random direction. Not bothering to take out a cigarette on the walk away. Well, that went better than expected. Hopefully he won't go back on his words. Anko commented gently as she saw Kurenai nod. Following Kurenai into her home along with Naruto as she opened the door and taking to the living room. Naruto politely wiped his paws before laying on the two-seated loveseat, taking up only one side and the arm of the chair. Anko raised her eyebrow but decided to get everyone, meaning her and Kurenai, something to drink. Kurenai took the seat by Naruto and laid on him, loving the feel of his soft fur. Growling in a soft tone, Kurenai looked at him and giggled as she nuzzled into his fur, his tail wrapping around her. Anko walked in and set her cup down along with Kurenai's, opting to leave Naruto's cup in the kitchen until he felt the desire to change back and get it. Taking a seat in her friend's chair across from said friend, she sipped her tea and smiled. Looking over at Anko, Kurenai couldn't help but feel her earlier thoughts of Anko's feelings were more cemented. Mentally she sighed, before the thought itself stopped her. Maybe it wouldn't be all that bad. Resolving herself to bringing it up in her mind sometime later on, she wanted to enjoy herself. She also noticed Anko relax slightly, which made her feel all the better. Finally grabbing her tea and sipping it a bit, Anko watched as Kurenai's eyes sparkled. It was her favorite tea that Anko knew how to make. She looked over and smiled, thanking Anko with it. So, are we all going to sit here and relax, or are we going to go out and do something? Anko questioned the others. Looking up, Kurenai twisted her face in contemplation for a second. Well, we all have the day off, why not stay inside and relax? We could watch a movie or two, she suggested with a smile. Anko grinned and approved of the notion, while Naruto didn't even raise his head. Content with just laying there. Well then. Kurenai started while getting up. Let's go then. Grabbing onto Naruto, she tugged him gently and he stood up, finally turning back into his human form and smiling at them both. Leading the way, Kurenai grabbed Anko as well in her teacup before heading to her bedroom. Naruto raised his eyebrow and grabbed his tea from the kitchen before following the two ladies. Kurenai turned the TV on and Anko stole the remote, going through all the horror movies she could find. Looking over, she could help but smile at her friend, as well as seeing Naruto put his cup of tea on a table. Gaining a glint in her eye, Kurenai walked around Naruto until he was between her and the bed. Anko, seeing her friend's intentions, grinned and moved slightly, giving her room. Taking a few steps forward, Kurenai hugged Naruto and used her legs to push them both forward and onto the bed. She couldn't refrain from giggling at his look as he landed between her and Anko. Flashing between pages and pages of movies, Anko finally picks one that is her favorite. Again, Anko. We watch this at least once every few months. Kurenai says slowly. Responding with a grin. Of course, and it's been months since we watched it. Chuckling, she noticed Kurenai count it out and sigh before nodding. Kurenai grabbed Naruto and hers tea, handing his cup to him and sipping on hers. Smiling with a small, thank you, Naruto slides an arm around Kurenai and sips on his cup as well. Blinking, Kurenai felt herself relax into his side as the movie started. Anko sat close to Naruto's side and stretched out, grinning and relaxing onto the wall. After some time, Naruto handed his empty cup back to Kurenai, who put it on the table. She slid more into his side and rested her head on his shoulder, one hand on his thigh. She had to admit, she liked this movie, but she'd never tell that to Anko. And seeing it with someone else that she cares for, felt nice, felt like everything fit. Glancing over, she saw Anko was attempting to block the two out and keep her eyes on the TV. Which wasn't hard since she could barely get her to ever look away from the screen when this was on. Grabbing the remote, she pauses the movie with a loud, "Hey." Coming from Anko and a questioning gaze from Naruto. I'm a bit hungry. Anko, think you can get any snacks? Popcorn or something? Giggling when she heard Anko grumbling, she went on. I know it's getting to your favorite part and you love to munch on popcorn in suspense. Grinning to herself, Anko nods. Yay, okay, sure. I'll make some popcorn then. She bounds up and rushes to go make the popcorn, and get back to her movie as soon as she can. Kurenai turns to Naruto some more and rests her hand on his chest before snuggling into him slightly. You just wanted to get her to leave for a few, didn't you, Kurenai-chan? Naruto said, a smile in his voice. Somewhat. I also want some popcorn. She smirked before slowly leaning up to him. Feeling his heart start to beat a bit faster, he leans down to meet her, one hand sliding up her arm. Gently pushing his lips to hers, they both close their eyes as he brings his hand up to the side of her face. Feeling something she's never felt before, other than their first kiss, Kurenai opens her eyes wide before closing them again, pushing back against him. So, that's what the spark is. I have to say I love it. She thought to herself as her face gained the likeness of tomato. Pulling back slowly with a smirk adorning his face, Naruto keeps his eyes closed. I didn't think you'd blush this much still. He finally opened his eyes as he replied. Shish, shut up. She stammered, unable to help herself, groaning internally at his smirk. Someone enjoyed themselves. He grinned at her as she rolled her eyes playfully and rested her head on his chest. Unknown to her, he held his blush down until she stopped looking, as a light pink adorned his cheeks. Deciding to make everything work out for the night, Anko grabs some juice to drink as well, grabbing a big bowl and the bag. Hearing the popcorn pop, she decides to simply zone out, almost wondering what they were doing. Looks like I'll be going back to my place to sleep tonight. She thought to herself with a sigh. I wanted to cuddle with my Kur-chan. I felt a little even lonelier since she left. She didn't notice when the popcorn stopped and the microwave opened up. Grinning to herself, she keeps thinking. I've never seen her this happy though. And I love it. Finally smelling the popcorn, she blinks and adds a bunch of salt to it, and a bit of butter, pouring it into the bowl. Turning the corner, she smirks at her friend. Kurenai was leaning on Naruto, enough that her head was laying on his chest, a content smile on her face. He had his eyes closed and was smiling himself. Hey, popcorn's here, you too, juice also. Smiling, she handed Naruto the popcorn, resting it on his lap, and she filled up the 3 cups with juice. Now start the damn movie, Kur-chan. She pouts and takes a bit of popcorn, having to sit even closer to Naruto to grab the bowl. Alright. Kurenai chuckled, seeing her friend antsy. Idly she noticed that Naruto didn't mind Anko sitting so much closer to him as he was eating some popcorn and smiling at her antics. Leaning back onto him and grabbing some popcorn, she continues to watch the movie along with them and relaxes. Sooner rather than later, the movie finally ends. They all stretch and use the bathroom while Kurenai and Anko gossip over another movie to watch. Kurenai, I haven't seen you this relaxed in forever. Anko commented once Naruto went to the bathroom. Yay, I can't believe how relaxed I am. It's amazing. She smiled. Funny, how I met him in Wave and all and he came back with us. Lucky if you ask me. Anko grins back at her. Yay, but I can tell something is still stressing you, she states with an all-knowing smirk on her face. Blinking in shock, she looks at her best friend. Anko, don't worry about it. She says with a soft smile. It's not something I'm gonna tell you right now. Seeing the look on her friend's face, she continues. It's not that I don't want to, I just want to keep it on my mind a bit more is all. But it's nothing, no worries. She smiles when Anko relaxes a bit more. Fine. But I'll find out eventually. She said while grabbing a mouthful of popcorn and shoving it in her mouth. Naruto walked in and they both seemed to just stare at him, both having different things on their minds. What? He asked, seeing the weird looks on their faces. Nothing. They both said at the same time. Don't worry about it. Anko continued and grinned at him. Now sit your primal down on this bed, and watch another movie with these ladies. Kurenai cut in a way that Anko didn't expect. Raising his eyebrow, Naruto sat down almost hesitatingly before Kurenai grabbed him and pulled him back between the two and set the bowl on his lap. Hey now. He called out before the bowl landed on his lap and Kurenai fell into his side. What? Something wrong? Kurenai asked, looking at him oddly. Blinking slowly, he replies. Not really, just wasn't expecting it. Giggling for a little while, Kurenai looked up at him again. Then don't worry about it. She smiled at him before getting comfortable again and turned the next movie on. After a while, Anko moved closer to Naruto to get the popcorn that had moved to leaning between him and Kurenai. Everyone throwing the thought away since the movie was keeping them all in suspense. After a while, Kurenai looked over to notice Anko had passed out, probably at one of the boring parts, on Naruto's shoulder. Oddly, in her mind, she wasn't jealous of the action, even if it was by accident. It just didn't seem to bother her at all. Looking at Naruto, she sees him content with watching the movie. Catching Kurenai's eyes on him, Naruto looks over and squeezes her gently in his arm while smiling at her. Seeing her smile back, he quickly kisses her cheek and goes back to the movie. He doesn't seem to mind either, or notice. Which isn't a bad thing really. She noted. After the movie had ended, Kurenai was beyond groggy. She could barely keep her eyes open. And Naruto, well, he was yawning a bit and stretched. Pulling the bowl off his lap, Kurenai slipped the bowl onto the table and shrugged off her normal dress, leaving her in her fishnet with built-in bra, and her shorts. I guess I should head out and let you sleep, Kurenai-chan. Naruto noted, a slight sound of emotion in his voice. Kurenai started off. While gently sliding to him and kissing him once more. Without opening her eyes, she continued. You can always stay and sleep right here. I don't mind it, and I'm sure Anko doesn't care really. She rested a hand on his chest and smiled at him. Looking at her skeptically, he noticed Anko fell asleep on him a while ago, but shrugged it off. She didn't bother him anymore really, which he felt relieved about. Alright, Kurenai-chan, I'll go take the couch again then. What would you like for breakfast, Rose? He smiled at her blush. It doesn't matter, you don't have to make anything, Naruto-kun. She frowned, thinking he thought that's why she wanted him to say. No, but I want to. He smiled bigger and kissed her cheek. Alright, whatever you want to make then. She relaxed. But I want you to stay right here. I'm comfy. Noticing him glance at Anko, she gives him a look. Is that a bother, Naruto? No. He said, looking back at her. But I don't think Anko would like me taking her spot, or you like the fact I'd be entrapped by her. He gave a playful grin, and she raised her eyebrow. Well, she is my best friend. She had a smirk on that made Naruto question what she had in store for this. So I don't think I'd mind her being all cuddled up to you while we slept. And what is that supposed to mean? He asked meekly. Does it have to mean something? She gave a questioning glance. What do you think it means? Seeing him hesitate, she smiles at him. Nothing, nothing. Sliding an arm under her, he forced her to move down so she could lie down. Looking over at Anko, he gently grabbed her and slid her down so she could lay as well. Taking his own place with an arm under Kurenai. Snuggling up to her man, which she blushed at the thought of saying that, she turned off the TV and the lamp. Sliding an arm across his waist and laying her head on his chest. Hearing her sigh contentedly, he runs his hand through her hair, making the air permeate her shampoo's fragrance. I'm glad I found you, Kurenai-chan. Unbeknownst to him, her thoughts were the same. Slowly the two started to fall asleep, but not before Anko made her presence known. Sliding her head onto Naruto's should and her arm over his waist, crossing Kurenai's, she sighed. Seemingly relaxing more than Kurenai has seen her for the longest time. Naruto groggily pulled a blanket over the three of them and kissed the raven-haired beauty's head before falling to slumber with the two. So friends, this was episode 2 of this exciting and action-packed story. If you enjoyed it and want episode 3 soon, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also comment down your thoughts. What incredible ability do you think Naruto's mysterious bloodline will reveal next? I'll see you in the next episode.